the beginning of the end for you.
To the sky!
Bestowed upon you the power of the sun.
A mighty sword!
Strike while the iron's hot.
For Camelot! For Avalon!
Let the heavens rain! I am Ragnarok!
Well, welcome everyone in to a beautiful Sunday morning here at the SMITE Pro League Season 9, Week 1, Day 3. Got there.
Yeah.
Simple. Sometimes math is hard, man. And of course, all of this is powered by Prime Gaming. Now, again, for those of you who might not be aware, Prime Gaming gives you a ton of great things if you are a member. If you're not a member, then this is probably going to help convince you to become one. Actually, Mifflin even said that he was going to make sure that he was getting his Prime Gaming benefits a little bit earlier today, because with this, you get so much out of a membership. Not only are you getting a free Twitch sub that you can use once a month on any channel of your choosing, although extra bonus points from me, they don't really qualify to anything if they get used here, but you also get free games and game content. That changes once every month. It's October, just now started, so all of that just refreshed. So if you are a Prime Gaming member, there's a little crown up there. You're going to want to click on that and get access to all of that new content, as well as all of the other stuff you get with a typical Prime membership, such as the free Amazon delivery and all of that and more. So thanks so much for Prime Gaming coming in with us for Season 9. And of course, thank you for being a Prime Gaming member. Thanks, Mifflin, for hanging out with me on the desk today, or at least this set, as we get ready for what I think is going to be a pretty exciting day of SBL. We've got a couple of teams that have had some wins, a couple of teams that we were maybe expecting a different look from. I know the Leviathans are sitting in the booth down the hall. Really curious if we're going to see Zapman playing mages again or not. That's really the question immediately on my mind, but we can talk about that in a little bit. As we look at really just the entirety of the day, right? Because, you know, the Leviathans didn't get the start that they wanted to this phase, but you've got a new player, so you can kind of shuffle things like that. Titans got a better start to it. We'll see how they're going to end up doing in this first set. And of course, we are in a position where every single set matters at this point. We're talking about the road to the World Championship. Not only is Phase 3 going to be very, very important, but it's important because that then determines your seeding for the Phase 3 playoffs, which sends 4 of the SBL teams directly to the World's quarterfinals. They don't have to do anything else. They just get there off the merit of being the best in the league. Then, when we get to December, we're going to be taking the SCC SOC teams from North America and the SCC SOC teams from Europe. They're all going to play in their own little brackets. The top 2 from those each will move forward to the SWC group stage. The group stage is the week before Worlds. That's going to take those 4 teams from the SOC, SCC matchups, as well as the 4 teams from the SBL that did not qualify for Worlds, put them up against each other. The top 4 from that one go to Worlds the next week. Again, 1 week later, and then they get to play. So a lot of fun qualification. A lot of SMITE. That is going to be very exciting, very competitive. And then, of course, you know, January 13th through 15th, just live in the Esports Arena in Arlington, Texas. The SMITE World Championship is going to be going on. You might have heard about it, you might not. Either way, I'm really excited for that one. And again, every single bit of it starts this week. Wins that have been going their way have been looking pretty good for a lot of these teams. And, of course, the way today is going to shake out, I think, is very exciting as well. A lot of interesting things that can happen. If you look at this, Leviathans, again, still looking for their first win so far this phase. Not saying too much. They've only played 1 set so far. Bolts looking to bounce back after Friday. And then the Dragons. Maybe not looking to bounce back, but looking to have a rematch from the Phase 2, the Masters, Summer Masters, there it is, finals, when they played up against the Kings. That one went 5. I expect that set to be very competitive. And the Dragons are also pushing themselves to see how long that win streak can keep going.
Man, today's just looking incredibly stacked. I mean, the Leviathans up against the Titans, obviously going to be a phenomenal match to watch. Another heat check for Haddix now playing with his new team. The Jade Dragons up against the Camelot Kings, the Masters rematch. But I'm really excited for that Solar Scarab set because I think this new Solar Scarabs roster has got a lot to show us that we didn't quite get to see. They got Jazzberry Jam.
Yeah.
And that's happening to literally everybody. So I'm not putting too much weight on that set in particular for them, but this one should be a much better heat check.
You just reminded me that Scream played Atlas yesterday.
Atlas mid.
And yeah, that was
Yeah, Scream played Atlas mid.
yes. So there you go. That's how the Dragons are doing right now. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in their
They
planning
won.
phase, but they're doing things where Scream plays Atlas mid. Not only played it, but apparently had been preaching about it prior to that set anyway.
Allegedly very good.
And it won, right? So it's
It sure
it's
did.
1-0 at least on that part. But we can instead look at these two teams that are playing in this first set. We'll talk about the Scarabs a little bit later today, and instead focus in on the Leviathans and the Titans. The Leviathans, the reigning world champs, although not with the MVP anymore. Again, if you missed it on Friday and missed it from Waiting Room or just haven't seen it, Hardcore was dropped from the roster, and Haddix was scooped up away from the Bolts. Came in, we were kind of curious what we were going to see. And we got mage carries over in the duo lane from Zapman. Then again, the Titans also played a mage carry because Cyclone Spin played Vulcan. So Mifflin, blanket statement, mage carries. Or not even like mage carries, which implies like Kronos and Oleron. Mages in the duo lane when it's not Season 6. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, look, I think mage carry is maybe a topic conversation for Zapman in particular. He's apt to go towards the mage tab when he's trying to shake up the composition and allow Shinto to get on these aggressive selections. With the Tartarus Titans, I don't think it's, hey, mage carries are really good. It's Cyclone Spin Spang. I don't feel like playing Hunters. I just don't. Be it an assassin, a warrior, or a mage, he's going to play just about anything else just to make sure he doesn't have to, I don't know, build an executioner. Maybe that offends him personally.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we get out of Zap today because he did. So you locked it in. I think it was what ESET into. I have to into the Raijin in game number 2. We'll see what he ends up doing. The Titans, though, again, Cyclone Spin did play Vulcan in their very first set. We got Thor coming out, I believe, from Layers, and he actually had me look this up because he was curious about it. Between him and Sot, Thor has been picked up by the Titans a few times over the last couple of years. Never once has it gone into the jungle, except for when Scary D was still the jungler on the Titans, so a while ago. But it was the first time Layers have been able to pick that up. Comes in, gets a nice win with it as well, so that felt really good for them. It was just a pretty clean set against the Bulls, right? I mean, you can even see it here. Close games when it came down to it. And to the point where, if I remember correctly, at least one they should have lost, one that they probably should have lost. And either way, they came back and absolutely won it through just really stellar defenses. This one is partially Paul. He gets the kills. But watch this Susanoo ult that comes from behind him. It is beautiful setup.
Yeah, I mean, just the triple assassin composition the Tartarus Titans have been running seems so difficult to deal with. Not because it is inherently strong, not because this strategy feels unbeatable. I think it's more so that teams haven't really had too many opportunities to practice against triple assassin. You're catching them off guard. All of a sudden, there's a typhoon under your feet, and Paul's absolutely dominating through pressure through the center of the map. It is a very interesting style of play, but it's one that I think that has a short shelf life. The more times we have the opportunity to see it, the more times everybody in the league will as well, and you're going to start to figure out some of this counterplay. We had talked about it on the desk and during the cast. Maybe the way to deal with it is just stick to your standard smite and try and stop pressure where it's trying to originate. Pressure's coming from wherever the set is, right? So put your pressure there in counter, and maybe you can start to slow down exactly what the Tartarus Titans are looking for. Either way, it's exciting Smite and crazy that it's been able to win out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see if they repeat that, if they come in with something new. Sometimes, I mean, they're the Titans. They've shifted things up regularly and consistently, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see if they have any of that today, and we can maybe hear some of it from them. So we go to J-Mac in the booth with an interview for the Titans.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm here with the Tartarus Titans before we jump into game, and I'm going to start over first by talking to Cyclone Spin. So Cyclone, we've seen so many things develop, at least between the duo lane. We've seen Hunter metas, mages just pump over there, mage hunters. Now you got assassins. You've even played warriors. Are we going to see some guardians over there at some point, man?
You know, everyone says tanks are OP, so, you know, maybe.
Maybe so. Now, Aurora, one thing that we don't see nearly as much of is diversity in the support role. We get guardians. Sometimes we get warriors. We had assassins for a while. A couple of mages. Anything spicy? Maybe did we ever get anything fun over in the support role anytime soon, man?
Maybe Lono's Mask's pretty good, so maybe we'll see some more mages, assassins, and who knows? I don't know, maybe. But Lono's Mask's definitely good, so I definitely expect to see like more like Noxes and maybe some assassins come out.
Okay, so maybe some fun stuff to be had over in the support role. Now, when I walked into the booth, one player in particular said, I want to get a pregame interview. And it was actually SOT. We talked to him at the end of the game prior. Now let's go over here. SOT, you didn't really give me specifics on what you wanted to talk about. So, I mean, how's it going over in the Soul Lane? How you feeling about, the kind of weird stuff you guys are running when you have triple assassin? I mean, how's the team kind of feeling jumping into the new phase?
Meow.
That. You know what? Heard it from the man himself. A meow from SOT. We'll throw it back over to the desk to keep it going.
That's actually incredibly deep content coming from them. I mean, really thought-provoking.
I thought you were going to straight up say cringe. I thought that, I was like, that was incredibly cringe.
No, it's very,
I love it. It's on
thought-provoking.
brand.
If you think about it, Mifflin, I feel like we're going to see Bastet solo.
Don't look into it, bro.
Don't look into it.
Don't look into it.
Okay, I'll shift away from that. And instead, we can just talk about the Leviathans, which actually, this would have been great if the Titans were playing the Warriors, if I said something about Bastet solo, and then it would have been there. Instead, it's the Leviathans. Haddix hasn't played a whole lot of that, but we can talk about him anyway, because it is always fun to talk about Haddix. An insane KDA through the Summer Masters, to the point where even though his team didn't win, he was the top KDA in the league for that one, or for that event at least, and has just absolutely been insane throughout the couple of years that he's been playing. A lot of focus on this player to the point where, this feels like a transition, right? If you're going to the Leviathans, you're going to the reigning world champs. If you don't think the Bolts are, I guess in his eyes, maybe capable of getting the win, this is a move to him that kind of screams to me that he wants to kind of elevate that level of play to get a world championship.
I mean, I think the thought process could be as simple as Haddix saw Zatman do it 3 times in a row and said, what's a fourth, right? Like,
Yeah.
might as well try and jump ship and see if we can make some success happen. And I think certainly will fill the hole that Yarkor has left behind very well. These two, Yarkor and Haddix, I think have very similar play styles when it comes to the Soul Lane. They hold their own. They control Totemaku. They like to play high damage output gods. Will generally sort of lean themselves towards more of those damage-centric picks as well, if the meta allows. Plug and play, as far as I'm concerned. I have absolutely zero concerns for Haddix and his tenure with the Leviathans going forward. But it's more so, how are the Leviathans going to adjust to Haddix? Are they going to try and play some of his more standard picks? Are they going to continually play through him? Or are they going to lean on their more veteran players that have been with the squad for a lot longer?
I'm curious about this team, and I want to ask your thoughts on this, because it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with today, but really this road to Worlds, right? Because we're still looking towards the end goal. But I'm curious because, like Haddix, it would be his first World Championship. For 3 of these guys, it would then be their second World Championship. How bad do you think it? Do you think it weighs on them realizing that none of that is going to be in the conversation because Zap's going to get a 4th ring if they win? Like that idea that you could join the prestige of being like some of the only players that have 2 world championships for Haddix to just become a world champion, and that all of that gets glossed over because Zap already has 3 rings and would get a 4th.
I wouldn't think about it even a little bit. And here's the thing,
really?
man. The prestige of being a SMITE pro is super fun, right? Like, some of these rookies coming to the league that maybe didn't have as much notoriety in the scene, they load in the ranked games, they're like, oh, it's you. You're in the SPL. You're doing really well. And it's cool to be recognized. But speaking from personal experience, there was one thing that I ever wanted when I was playing a pro, and it was the check. I like that money a whole lot. Now I'm thinking that's what these guys are thinking about as we start to approach Worlds.
Okay, that's you know what?
And the ring was cool.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess you still have the ring. I know you don't wear it as often. I actually think you said it's just too weighty to try and keep on your hand too often. We'll jump into picks and bans here for game number 1 between these two. You can call them Titans. You can call them 2 Leviathans, although that's only accurate, I guess, technically halfway for each of them. The Morgan, Terra banned out alongside Kepri for the Leviathans, who are in the first pick slot. Yamoja, Guan Yu, and the Kabrakan. So quite a few shots over into the Guardian role, although a little bit of healers sprinkled in there, the res coming in from the Kepri, and then just Paul's Morgan, because it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Leviathans don't try and take out any of the assassin stack that we had seen from the Titans previously. It feels like that composition really is contingent on God's like set. Take away that one, maybe it breaks down the rest of the draft, but instead, keep it standard. Maybe the Leviathans are hedging their bets on the fact that the Titans are unlikely to just continually run that exact same strategy. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but the more we see it, the less likely it is to succeed. So instead, take out the Capri, keep Paul off of one of his favorite picks in the Morrigan, and this does still leave up a lot of really strong priority, at least from previous metas. We haven't got too much data on the newest meta now in Phase 3, but you just got to think that some of these healers that are still available are probably pretty powerful. Maybe you want to go towards some standard pressure picks as well. Instead, it's the Daji first overall for the Leviathans. Generally, Daji is a pick that is like third slotted for the most part. You want to at least see a couple of gods on the other side that are going to struggle up against that Palau. Taking it so early in your draft means that you're probably going to get less value from the ultimate. But regardless, the damage output that Daji has is just incredible. And she's one of the best 1v1 gods in the late game when you're lined up in like those 4v4 sieges with the 1v1 in mid.
I think one of the only teams that first picks her, at least most of the time, is the Warriors, right? If they're able to get her, they absolutely want to go in for that, although it has been maybe I think one of the most banned, the most banned against that squad. It's very interesting because actually scrolling through, like quite a few teams have had Daji like against them be one of the #1 bans, and it's the second most from the Leviathan, something that Panatom plays incredibly well. And so maybe locking it in first, while, like you said, maybe not the most strategic position for a Daji, because now the Titans can just say, cool, here's 5 CC immune ultimates or 5 CC immune kits. Still gives you a little bit of leeway and maybe a little bit of prowess. I'm also curious to see where Haddix ends up falling in their priority for drafting, because solo lane, like, sometimes, I mean, it varies game to game, it feels like, between teams even consistently, where sometimes you want to grab something super high up, sometimes it's in that third slot, and sometimes you're waiting until the very, very bottom to be able to scoop those. So definitely watching the order for the Leviathans here. And still waiting on the Titans. I mean, this is something that's interesting to try and lock in against. I mean, when you look at what has been top picks in general, things that are going to do well against Daji as well, some of those don't overlap the way that you would think.
Okay, I'm up.
And Mifflin, I'm really glad I didn't start naming gods, because neither of the ones that were just locked in were going to be on that list. Kumbhakarna and Ratatoskr locked in for the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your CC immunity, to be sure, some global presence to match that mobility that Daji's got, assuming this Ratatoskr is headed for the jungle. We know that Layers is very adept on this pick. He's been playing it for an incredibly long time, all the way since his tenure in the console league. But this is a flexible composition already from the Titans. Kumbhakarna could either go solo, could go into support, Ratatoskr, solo, or jungle. So at least going to keep the Leviathans guessing in that regard.
His name's Solo or Troll, not Solo or Jungle.
Thank you. But he did jungle in the past.
He
so
has jungled in the past.
maybe solo and jungle or troll. But you're not showing your hand whatsoever with this Titans top 2 selection. I'm not even confident in locking down the roles. All I know for a fact is that these 2 picks are going to be in the draft. And you've got pretty decent CC already. Might be enough that the Leviathans have to concern themselves with whether or not the supports want some CC immunity, whether or not you're going to be moving it towards beads early on. It's a pretty strong peel composition as well. Kumbhakarna very, very strong, hanging out in that back line, making sure your carries are allowed to deal that damage. And Ratatasker's got the flexibility of going up into the air and either being that primary initiator or just hover there and come back and try and counter-engage, especially with something like a Daji on the other side.
Now, I don't know if we're going to be getting a triple assassin specifically, but I will say in past interviews and discussions with Aurora, he has put out that Kumba, in his mind, is the best tank to solo tank, right? If you're going to have someone who on the team is the only person who is the dedicated, like, you know, front line, essentially, Kumba is the way to go because he handles auto attackers pretty well. He's able to kind of balance things out, like you said, good peel.
Infinite CC.
With Ratatoskr and Chiron locked in, wouldn't be surprised if they shift maybe a little bit towards the triple assassin that we've seen, that route, or if they go for something like a double hunter. I think very much, like you said, on board, on the table for the Titans in terms of that discussion. Leviathans don't seem to think that that's going to be too likely. Titans ban out Eset and Vulcan. Leviathans have banned out Hades and the Yu Huang. So taking a couple of shots at mages just in case they come through. One that we've seen a little more prominently over there in mid. Hades, who's been more prominent so far in solo this year. Camazotz lock in. No set locked away from them. And Daji already there. It feels like the Titans definitely have the leeway to lock in whatever they want.
And the Camazotz doesn't reveal too much either. Ratatoskr still has flex potential in a solo. Camazotz can also jungle as well. Both Layers and SOT have played both of these picks in the past. So the Leviathans, if they were trying to wait on Haddix's pick and find that counter selection, I think they're going to be hard-pressed to do so because of the flexibility of this Titans draft. They could just say, yo, SOT, do you like Camazotz or the King Arthur more, or do you like Rat? Whichever one you like, go ahead and take it, and then Layers will play whatever's left over in the jungle. So going for a safer pick like King Arthur, one that doesn't really have too many poor matchups, is pretty nice. You're going to be able to hold your own in the majority of these lanes regardless. I am concerned, though. That King Arthur got locked in. I look at the Titans cams. They're all laughing. I'm thinking that's probably something they were predicting.
Yeah.
Not a crazy prediction. It's not out of left field, to be sure, but maybe they've got something cooked up for it. I mean, looking at the draft top to bottom now, Titans 5v5 up against the Leviathans. You've got really good answers to some of these channeled abilities. King Arthur starts to Beyblade. Daji starts the 1,000 cuts. Merlin channels that fire stance. You've got multiple silences, multiple mezzes, stuns, ways to deal with those. I like the draft in the 5-on-5 team fight late game. My only concern is, for the Titans that is, whether or not they're going to be able to keep up these weaker early game pieces, whether or not they can keep this Nox active throughout the early. If it is Rat Jungle, that's generally one that you can kind of sit on and try and pressure out. You've got a pretty decent composition for that on the side of the Leviathans. This game might be really dictated by the first 15 or so minutes.
You know, and that was something that it felt to be true when the Titans were playing the Bolts on Friday as well, and it literally did just kind of drag out. Even in the game they were behind, I think 7K at one point, and they still just held on until team fights were in their favor. You know, I have so many things after what you just said to try and pick on. I'm going to grab one immediately that you said hedge their bets about the King Arthur, like something that they were almost positive, maybe not positive, but
they were
estimating
guffawing.
that it was going to get locked in. And guffawing is fine here because Haddix actually has a not too great win rate on the King Arthur this year, about 30% over there for him. You had said it, though, with Ratatosker and Camazotz. Those feel like the two options for solo right now. And kind of giving Sot the choice of like whichever one you prefer in that matchup. Do you have one that you prefer out of the two?
If I'm Sot, I probably would lean personally towards the Ratatasker,
really?
just because you've got ways to deal with that stun a little bit more consistently, which is one of the best boxing tools that King Arthur's got in the lane. You can also start to move into towards those sustain style itemizations, get a little bit of healing. We saw from Baskin earlier this week that King Arthur still can utilize Soul Eater, which makes him a bit of a sustain bully in lane, can utilize HP more so as a resource. That said, Camazot's got pretty decent healing himself as well. It's not as if one is overtly better than the other, but I think getting that global presence in the Soul lane, allowing him to rotate towards these mid-fights, could go a long way. I'm just still looking at this Titans draft, and I'm trying to figure out where all these pieces are going.
Well, I've got good news for you. You don't have to figure out or strain any longer because we can just jump into game number 1 here and find out exactly where these Titans are playing with J-Mac and Trelly.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully in just a moment here, we can all get an answer to the questions that we have been waiting on. Where is this Kumakarno going? Where is this Nox going? Where is anything going? It's going to be Cyclone playing Nox?
You were right about Paul and Chiron.
Okay, and I was also right about Layers on the Ratatosker. So, peeling back, it's J-Mac and Charlie first off, and Doug joining us as well. I was predicting this Kumakarno was going to be going solo, that there was going to be a Camazotz ADC. I was wrong on those fronts. But I at least got my Chiron on my Ratatosker prediction. Cyclone and the Nox is definitely the last thing I was expecting, though, Trelly.
Yeah, I was thinking Paul might have taken the Nox mid, but either way, we're going to get to see a damaged Nox, which is what I've been looking for because, you know, I used to play Nox back in the day before I realized, you know, everyone hates Nox players. And I was just like, yeah, she does good damage. That's kind of fun. That was the mindset. And then everyone's like, I'm going to build her full tank and just full CDR and constantly lock people down. It's not going to do damage, but it's going to be really annoying to deal with. She still does do big damage as long as you can land that combo. So we'll have to see if Cyclone's been practicing. Wrong U does not have bead, so that could be a decent target for the Shadow Lock combo. And they can look to get aggressive. They have a ton of CC to set up for it as well. Just with Aurora in general, Kumakarna is just a CC bot.
This is just the most annoying duo lane I may have ever witnessed in my life. You know, Kumakarna is already annoying to deal with. The Mez, the Root, Epic Uppercut, all that stuff. Nox is also annoying to deal with on her own.
Oh yeah, true.
The silence, the Root combo that comes after her, the ult that reduces damage.
Right.
Now you put them in the lane together. If one person gets caught without beads, they are stuck in an infinite CC loop against these two.
Yeah, and then Layers can come over and add to that. So I think that seems to be the plan here for the Tartarus Titans.
Awful.
Try and burn some beads. and then look for aggression off of that. I will say Nox, not the best for the long lane, just in the sense of you don't have too much CDR. So after you use your abilities to clear the wave, you kind of have to run the tower line, which is Cyclone, not a stranger to playing safe in this lane. You know, sitting at the tower, clearing waves, and just getting farm wherever possible is certainly the idea. But I imagine Rongyu is probably going to sit around this lane for a bit, trying to find some walls, trying to set up Zapman to get some extra pressure, to get some extra lead in this lead, just because you're up against a mage who doesn't have the greatest time fighting up into a Hou-Yi early on.
And speaking on that, I mean, when we saw the Leviathans earlier on in the week, it was Zapman who was playing the mages over there. Ended up having a Raijin game, and I'm trying to remember what the other game was immediately. I can't remember immediately off the top of my head.
Eset Raijin.
Eset and Raijin, that's right. And now it's Zapman on traditional Hunter. Cyclone still playing a little weird. He went for the Assassins yesterday, now going to the Mage this time around. So interesting to see the flexibility in that regard for the Hunter players. As we do see a 2v2 brewing around this blue buff. A blink in by SOT. Stun onto Panatom, who needs a way out. And for him, he's got at least his solo laner in the lane, able to teleport over to him and get away.
Yeah, got the blue buff and got out. That's going to be a good play, and wasted a little bit of the Titans' time. However, this purple buff, I don't imagine is going to be going here for free. Not too much confirm, and Rongyu will go for the car, but good on Aurora to save that hog, make sure to confirm the buff for the ADC. Not like Nox benefits too much from the attack speed, but hey, you want your XP, you want your gold, and you don't want to be falling behind. Like I said, Hou-Yi, one of the better ADCs in just finding those 1v1 kills. A random ricochet really can turn the fight in your favor, as well as, you know, you're clearing the way with auto attacks pretty effectively as well. So good on Cyclone to confirm that. Just sit back with Aurora and soak up as much farm as possible. I do imagine the gold lead will be going in favor of the Leviathans just for a bit by nature of not last hitting as much and losing some gold to this tower over in duo lane.
Now, one of the things we often have the discussion on, you know, when we see these kind of off compositions, these mages in the duo lane, and you have your hunters over in the mid, is that once we kind of get out of the laning phase, once we start getting to the team fight, it really is still just a more traditional comp. It's just your mages on a different player and your hunters on a different. Do you think that this composition for the Titans, having this Nox with this power build, getting towards late game, can still stack up to the damage output that Shinto can put on a Merlin?
Absolutely. I mean, Nox has crazy DPS. The issue has always been if you miss that combo, because it's not easy to hit, especially on, you know, pro players that are able to juke abilities, it's not going to be an easy time. Layers did tick over to level 5 here, so shouldn't be in too much trouble. Just wants to get as much farm. I was going to say, if Layers didn't get those back camps, probably would have been stuck at level 4, and that 1v1 with Panatom could have been some trouble with the Palau available, but ticks over level 5, not going to be a problem. As long as the combo is consistently hitting, Night Terror does a ton of damage, can disrupt the team fight. That tick damage really does start to add up, and the combo can just be so annoying to deal with. It really just depends on how much CC you have, and are you landing those abilities consistently. Cyclone Spin's going to need some CDR, and probably wait for Aurora to set up for him.
For now, at least farm advantage is slightly in favor of Paul in the mid. SOT, same regard for him over in the solo lane. So I'm curious where the first fight will kind of break out. 'Cause so far, we're pushing the 5-minute mark. We've seen a couple little skirmishes. Obviously, Panatom trying to play aggressive towards Layers. They both hit level 5 earlier on, so not really much kill pressure there. So for the Leviathans, you know, you kind of want to maybe get the ball rolling, get some of those beads burned away for Panatom. Where do he and Rongyu kind of make that first strike?
Well, it seems like Panatom is going for the re-gank option, sort of following Layers around, like, hey, you don't have beads. The second you go through the Cosmos, the second that tree is used, you have no CC immunity. I can find the pull and look for a re-kill option. So Panatom always wanted to just farm early, sit around, and then help his team wherever. I imagine that's the call here. Sit around and farm, wait to see where this rat goes, and then follow and look for some re-gank opportunity, because that really is where Daji struggles to find kills early. You don't want to be forcing the relics yourself. You want your team to be forcing those relics, force those escapes, and then you can go in after the fact to make for some good times. And Zap is not going to be able to back for a couple seconds now because of that damage.
It's like the old solo lane mentality. It's just like, I'm willing to take a tower shot so that way you can't back for an extra 5 seconds of your life, waste a little bit more of your time. But Zatman does have a slight level advantage, and with Panatom and Wrong Yu on the way, Cyclone Spin could go down. His ultimate, his dash are down, only has beads left, and surely he'll save them and not waste them at this point in time. Recognizing there's 3 here, Cyclone Spin goes down for first blood. That one goes over to Panatom.
I mean, that's just strange to me. I understand that Cyclone wanted the wave, but dashing on the wave, I feel like probably could have got out if just used the 2 and then dash backwards in the tower. Aurora might be in a little bit of trouble, has the Sleepy Time passive, and Paul's on the way with the cleanse as well if need be. So that should be Aurora getting out of trouble. But Cyclone was none the wiser, had no clue that they were behind him. And now the Leviathans are able to strike first blood. If you get spoon-fed a kill like that, then yeah, Panatom can get active early.
A lot of that just thanks to Zatman. Actually, thanks to Cyclone, because Cyclone stopped the back of Zatman.
That's true.
Forced Zatman to stay in lane a little longer. And it's just good play by Zatman going for the side Harpy camp instead of trying to go for a fight to bait Cyclone Spin in just a little bit longer. So, first blood to the Leviathans and a 1,000 gold lead to boot along with that. Experience slightly in favor of the Leviathans, though not as heavily as you would imagine after being able to get a first blood like that, especially considering that Zatman was a full level up almost on Cyclone before that gank happened. Is now only just now ticking into level 8.
I'm very excited to see what Aurora does with this build because with Manticore Spikes Kumba, you can blink in, mez, and then pick up your spike, ult, pick up your spike, start charging the 2, pick up the spike, and then finish off with the 1. If you get a little bit of damage, you're 100-0 in carries with that combo. Layers is coming over, does get stunned out by Zap, hasn't got enough HP, but Cyclone, ooh, swing and a miss on the ult.
And not gonna find anything there, does get the silence, forces an ult out of Wrong Yu. And then with Aurora over, the mez will be good. This little double bounce by Zatman does clip Cyclone Spin, but the Nox ADC will be able to make it back to base no problem. Still holding on to beads all throughout that engagement. So Cyclone will have them, should Panatom make another rotation over like he has towards Layers. Layers will dash away. Aurora got the ult of his own, but Wrong Yu is just going for some of the steals on these offerings, and unfortunately for Aurora, caught in the middle of 3. Sleepy Time passive, won't save him this time. A second kill for the Leviathans, this one on Zatman.
Now Zap's going to be sitting 1-0, has a level lead in this lane. I mean, Cyclone Spin dying for first blood wasn't the greatest, but now getting another kill onto this Hou-Yi, that should facilitate a lot of pressure on this side of the map. And we've been talking about it since the start of this split, which wasn't that long ago. The duo lane is where you want your pressure. Gold Fury's over there, now the Interceptor spawns on that side of the map. Having your Hunter this far ahead is going to open up the door for the Leviathans to go for an early gold pull. They've got decent burn there. Confirm isn't the greatest, so it's going to have to be relying on a lot of vision. And SOT's pretty far up. Does have Bat Out of Hell to get out of the way, so shouldn't be in too much trouble here for Panatom.
But he is taking a lot of damage from Panatom. He's going to have to use that Bat Out of Hell, probably just to escape. Jumps over the wall, a jump in by Panatom, a swipe in by SOT. Layers doesn't have ultimate. He's getting pulled right back in. And that'll be a nice and easy kill for the Atlantis Leviathans. This time, Haddix finally gets to put his name on the board.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little surprising to me. SOT should have communicated, I'm fine, you don't have to come over here, you know, Layers does not have beats. Once that ultimate goes down, powwow, always going to be able to pull back in, and of course, Haddix just saving that large ultimate to make sure to get a confirmed kill there. Paul is getting wrapped around, but has the giddy up to get out and does have to use the beads. Real low, but not going to be enough unless that carpet hit, but not close enough. Paul does lose the beads, though, so could be a little in trouble for the next couple minutes trying to hold on, play a little safer, but the Leviathans have certainly come out swinging this game.
3 kills up, 2,300 gold, 2K XP. Now starting to build up that lead and starting to climb up as far as the lead is concerned for the Leviathans. And a very aggressive style of play. We've known Panatom to be a very aggressive player. Shinto typically not one to try and pick a fight early on in the mid, but he goes for one there, finds Paul kind of slipping a little bit. Doesn't get the kill on Paul quite yet, but does get the beads and the safety away from this Chiron.
Yeah, Shinto's still 0-0-0. Once he gets an assist or a kill, then we can start saying he's aggressive. This man's just looking for farm. He was like, hey, Paul's near my farm, that's why I'll do some damage to him. That's really the only reason. As Leviathans are trying to go for a greater Scorpion invade, SOT not going to go to defend, but Paul uses the Centaurus just to fire off some warning shots and try and confirm the Scorpion.
Does find a couple hits with it. Scorpion does go over to the Leviathans. Aurora caught behind a wall, double mez. And a charge of the root does hit Wrong Yu, who's in danger now. Could be a first kill for the Tartarus Titans if they can find the damage on this Ymir, but Wrong Yu is healing back up with that meditation. Not quite enough health as the first kill for the Titans is now on the board. Palau up and Paul down. Haddix finds the kill throughout, but Layers wanting to crash in. It's a double kill for Haddix, and maybe a triple kill if SOT gets a little too low. It's going to be one for Shinto, and Haddix will still push in. Gets the beats off of Cyclone Spin. A 3-for-2 trade for the Leviathans.
Yeah, Cyclone Spin and Zapman made the rotations over. That's a big fight, but that means Pyromancer could be looked at, and Shinto is going to start DPSing immediately. Massive trade, but still in favor of the Leviathans, and that gold lead is going to be in their favor as well. Lucky for the Titans that that fight wasn't on the left side of the map, because Gold Fury almost certainly would be going down at that point. But still, you saw the spike there on the charts. Massively in favor of the Levi's, and now Haddix is 3-0 on this King Arthur. We saw 2 big ultimates go off in that fight. It's going to be extremely difficult. We were talking about how King Arthur loves to spin around, loves having these channeled abilities with a Kumbhakarna and a Nox. It would seem pretty easy to shut down, but Haddix hasn't minded yet.
Haddix does not care about anything that's been thrown his way. Unconcerned by the magical damage to the duo lane, as he's built into double physical defense. Deal with SOT, Layers, and Paul instead. You can see just how little damage he was taking throughout the duration of that fight. Now 3-0-1 on the King Arthur, and a nice lead for himself. 13 to SOT's just now, turning over towards level 12 on the Camazotz. And Shirley, that was a 5v5, 11 minutes in the game. On the enemy's
They really wanted that
in
Scorpion.
enemy territory by the Scorpion.
Yeah, they really wanted that Scorpion. When I saw Centaurus, I thought that the Titans were committing a little bit too much. But if you could have confirmed it and get out, Paul would have been pretty happy with that, getting the upgraded buffs. But it wasn't really the greater Scorpion. It was the fight after the fact, realizing, hey, some ultimates are down. Phantom hits a nice powwow, but Layers goes up into the sky, and everything just started turning up. Layers is walled off here, but more so, Aurora could be in some trouble. So Tars once again fires off just for some extra poke damage.
Decent shots from Paul. Puts that man about quarter HP down. Rongyu and Panatom also eating some during that. However, for the Tartarus Titans, being down 6-2, about 3,500 gold, separating the teams this early on. A slow burn of a lead that the Leviathans have been working towards. Ever since that first blood went through, that's when we've been starting to see the gold start trickling its way up in favor of the Leviathans. And with that Pyromancer down, Gold Fury, the eye of interest for the Leviathans. Do the Titans have answers to try and deal with some of the objective burn that the Leviathans have?
I mean, they have a lot of stall, and I think that's what the Tartarus Titans are looking to do here. If the Gold Fury does get looked at, which Haddix is here, so that tells me will be getting looked at very shortly. Night Terror could be a decent option, but Wrong, you can just wall that off. And it looks like the Tartarus Titans are going to throw up a little bit of a defense here as Leviathan start the pull.
Gold Fury pulled. 3 members on DPS, 1 on zone. Panatom trying to keep eyes on Layers. Silence will stop Wrong for a moment. The Freeze catches Cyclone, and Aurora at half HP. Centaurus through the back line does find 3 different people, and a shot afterwards. Cyclone's ult does find Shinto. That's going to force the mage out. Wrong low, sent to the skies by Aurora and down to the ground by SOT. The bat out of hell will find the final hit, but Layers all the while was forced out of the fight as Panatom put him at low HP.
Now, surely that could be a repull opportunity, but the low health bars, that Centaurus was able to poke down so many members of the Leviathans. And even though Haddix was relatively tanky there, SOT also full HP, didn't really want to feel like going for that pull. So Leviathans are just going to let Wrong go and not get anything after the fact. So a nice defense there by the Titans, trying to get a little bit of extra gold in their pockets and make sure that objective does not go down. We saw the Night Terror. It's pretty difficult to hit when everyone's looking at you. It's one of those abilities that, yeah, it's pretty massive, but only on the explosion. If you juke just the small orb as it's coming towards you, you're not going to get that big AoE that makes your whole team do a lot less damage. And that was probably the mark where the Titans said, okay, we got our pick, let's get out. That is certainly a win for the Titans. Now, look at these Oracles spawning back in. The Leviathans still want to put some pressure towards this left side of the map, towards this Gold Fury. Getting vision here would be nice, but Wrongyu's up against 3 to try and steal it.
Go for the Silence. Doesn't find it, gets a freeze, and does manage to get the auto attack to steal at least one of them away. So split on the Oracles means no vision for either teams in that regard. But the ward battle was won by Leviathans, as Wrongyu already was able to get a sentry down. Continuing to place sentries on this upper side of the map. They really want to play aggressive towards this objective and make sure that they can find a way to secure that out. Another ward drop by Aurora, another ward taken by the Leviathans inside the Gold Fury pit.
Yeah, it seems like just another double down, if you will. No one's going to make any pulls and back to the farm game. Haddix and SOT both on the right side of the map. That's what you want to keep your eye on. Whenever the Gold Fury has spawned in and no one's made a pull just yet, when the solo laners come over, that's usually when a fight is about to break out. Teleport available for Haddix, but SOT does have to make the long trek over on foot, doesn't quite have access to teleport, and I don't imagine at level 14 or level 15 now is going to pick up the teleport, probably beads into a composition like that. You don't want to be getting pulled by the Palo every time Bat Out of Hell is down. So going to have to make the long trek over. But Pyromancer is spawning back in. That's how long that dance took. Could be another pull for Leviathans, but SOT has still not went back. Probably has a ton of gold in hand.
SOT sitting on 2,300, so should be able to buy most, if not a full item if he goes back. Even Cyclone, though, spitting on a lot of gold. 2,700 in pocket for the mage over in the dual lane. So he'll finally take his opportunity. Never mind, he'll go to purple buff first. Maybe get one more wave and then go back. So he'll be pushing 3K before he actually does manage to go back to base at this point. A lot of things that you can buy with 3K. If I'm not mistaken, you can buy just about any item in the game with 3,000 gold in hand.
Yeah, you could even get a 3K pot.
You could.
If that is something that Cyclone wanted to do.
You
Or
could get
a full Soul Reaver. That's definitely going to be a power spike that you want to see on your Nox. And now the Leviathans are heading over to Pyromancer, but just to drop a ward. Okay, Shinto said, no, we're pulling this. Layers immediately hears that DPS, though, and it's going to show up. Pyromancer at about 50%. Only has an opportunity to steal from over the wall.
SOT throws damage to Panatom. And Layers eating a lot from Panatom as well. Forced under the tower. Pyromancer goes to Leviathans. Aurora gets an ultimate onto Zapman.
The Gold Fury
But
took the ult.
Zapman is going to be just fine. Cyclone Spin's beads are gone. Haddix being a nuisance in that regard. Now some damage coming through from this Nox. But Cyclone's ult is down. Aurora and SOT's ult are down. All ults, aside from the transformation or the stance switch out of Shinto, available for this Gold Fury pull. And it doesn't seem like Titans are able to do much to get in there. Gold Fury is low, but the Titans will steal that one away. Palau should pull in a roar and take him down at the end of it all. SOT still in the back line. Cyclone able to find wrong use. Zapman dive bombs away, but it's not far enough as Layers closes in the gap and finds the kill.
I cannot believe that Paul was able to steal that one away with the Centaurus shots. I mean, that fight starts with Aurora getting a nice epic uppercut onto Zapman. You see the Night Terror charge up, and Cyclone Spin whiffs and accidentally hits the Gold Fury. And at that point, the Leviathans are like, they just wasted 2 ults. Yeah, we're going to pull this Gold Fury, but not the good call there. 3 down and the Gold Fury as well. The Tartarus Titans, guess what? They don't care about gold anymore. They're heading over to this Fire Giant. No one but Shinto is here to defend, but stepped over a ward and probably is going over left. This is going to be a free Fire Giant at 18, 19 minutes for the Tartarus Titans.
I'm not sure if the Leviathans knew that this was happening, if they stepped over that sentry ward on the side at any point, or maybe if they stepped over the ward over the top end. Now that the Fire Giant is down, we have a moment before the Titans push in. If we can get a look back now on the replay from that Gold Fury steal that came from Paul. He said it was the Centaurus shot and through the wall just blindly. I think a little bit of extra help from the Bluestone comes through there, but Paul able to steal that one away, and then the fight afterward, just perfect. Able to pick up a kill for himself, one for Cyclone, and one for Layers. So the Tartarus Titans down, but certainly not out.
No, now they're able to get that Fire Giant, and you know, we've accumulated Fire Giant to a certain amount of gold. You know, it depends on how early, but 20 minutes in, there's a ton of DPS here for the Titans. They should be able to grab at least a few towers as long as they're able to group up and push effectively. Get some extra items online. You know, Paul would love to finish that Heartseeker. That'd be a big power spike for the mid laner, as well as SOT trying to finish that Kadusha Shield, get some extra healing. Could go a long way on this Camazotz as well. It looks like they're grouping up, going for this left side. If the Leviathans are going to play this smart, which they are, they're grouped up trying to get some return towers, probably mid-tier 1. And if they see the Titans continue to push, could grab the tier 2 in the process. They don't want this gold lead to climb and get out of favor, right? If you're able to lose a few towers, but you gain some back, and then you stall out this FG, you can fight for the next one. You're not too far behind, and the itemization is going to be the biggest deal. That does seem to be the play here. Wrong You and Zapman are going to grab the tier 2 in right, with Panatom playing zone duty, and then back real quick before there's any chance to lose your Phoenix on the left side of the map.
Gonna have to go quick. 5 Titans on the left side. 1 less now. SOT does go back to base, so unlikely to continue the push towards the Phoenix. You're right to talk about maybe just stripping some towers away. Still 4 standing, both in the mid and the solo lane. that the Tartarus Titans can take. So a lot of free gold on the map for really both of these teams to be able to grab. So this lead that's been at least closed up by the Tartarus Titans, down to 500, 700 XP, 21 minutes in. I mean, this is essentially nothing at this point. The Titans now with SOT grouped back up, making an aggressive play towards the backside of the jungle.
Yeah, trying to invade that red buff, not let Shinto get that extra damage is definitely going to be something that you want. Tartarus Titan's going to grab the tier 1 in mid. Cyclone has just been sending this ultimate out pretty much whenever it's up, trying to get some poke damage, trying to lower the DPS of the Leviathans if a tier 2 siege happens. And with SOT leading the charge, it looks like that's exactly what the Tartarus Titans want, but the Leviathans, they're not giving this up for free.
Silence dropped on the tower, keeps Wrong Yu from moving in. I'm actually curious. I know Cyclone's only got, what, 20% CDR into the build, but his ultimate cooldown is a pretty short one on the Nox. I wonder if his cooldown almost coincides with the Mirrodin cooldown at this point. It was 17 seconds, I think, for Cyclone. Okay, so about 10 to 12 second difference between when his ult is available and when he can get a Staff of Mirrodin proc with it. So essentially keep your eyes on the timer, add a little bit more, and that's when Cyclone's ready to get these fights going.
Yeah, it seems like Cyclone's sending out the ult. If he hits a massive 5-man ult, yeah, we can go in. They're all doing like way less damage, and we're going to chunk them. If not, hey, I cleared the wave. We can go for more towers. It doesn't seem like the Leviathans want to fight because they are pretty happy with just stalling out as much as possible, letting this Fire Giant run off, and then fighting for the next Fire Giant that happens later. Panatom is taking a lot of damage in the jungle.
Let's go to the Pal-Lao. Layers up in the sky. Paul on Centaurus. Panatom doesn't have any options on landing point. It's covered on all fronts. It's Paul with the Centaurus to find the kill. Now the Tartarus Titans with the power play. Cyclone's ultimate down, so they won't have that for the fight in. Zapman no beads. Haddix losing a bit of HP, but SOT losing even more. Gets in the bat out of hell. But was there a tower shot ready to go to him? He'll make it alive. But Shinto finds a pick on the layers. SOT out the wall, doing so much work. It's a double kill for Shinto, and maybe even more. Aurora down to sleeping. It's a triple for the mid laner, the Leviathans. They punch back and push the Titans away.
Yeah, so everything I said was a complete lie. The Leviathans were not stalling. They were just biding their time, letting Panatom get picked so they could pop off underneath that tower. I mean, SOT, not tanky at all, got completely deleted, had to back up, and when you expect, that's the issue about a Camazotz solo. You think, okay, we've got this tanky solo laner tanking the tower for us, we'll be fine. Immediately gets deleted, has to go into the bat out of hell, tower aggro switches, and everyone just starts popping. Too much damage, layers goes down, Paul and Aurora, and Cyclone SOT have to go back and just get set up for the incoming Fire Giant defense. Leviathans still ahead in gold. We're able to stall out that Fire Giant completely, losing a few towers here and there. But once they grab this Fury, should be able to immediately reset. They have a Trebuchet if they need to, but that Fire Giant fight is looking in favor of the Leviathans now.
That wall from Wrong Yu on that side as well, setting up the bounce for Zapman and locking them within Shinto's damage. Perfect play by the Leviathans. Holds back the Titans at the tier 2. So those two towers in mid and right still standing for the Atlantis Leviathans, but now an actual opportunity to step up towards this Fire Giant. Because the Tartarus Titans, they got it for free last time. They got their picks over at the Gold Fury side. They won that team fight. They marched their way over to Fire Giant and took it with no contest. But this time the Leviathans should be able to make that stand. Seems that Paul could be a perfect target as well, just because lack of beads on him. 70 seconds till those are back up. If you're the Leviathans, is that who you're keeping your eyes on?
I would say so. It seems like a pretty easy setup because, like you said, the no beats, you have to be timing your cleanse perfectly to try and get out of some of the CC here from the Leviathans. And the fact that Phantom Shell has not been picked up. Paul has access to Shell, but is waiting to upgrade it. So a nice wall here from Wrong Yu could be disastrous for the team fight of the Tartarus Titans. But they are sieging forward in the jungle. Haddix able to get a counter ward down, but the Titans still, all things considered, have the pressure on towards this objective. The Leviathans did send out their Trebuchet, though, down and left, which will eventually grab that tier 1 tower, but that's about all it can do now. It takes a long time to push in towards that tier 2, and I don't imagine we'll come into play too heavy unless this dance lasts for the next 6 minutes. Just trying to grab some poke. Aurora frontlining, knows that Zap's beads come up in about 8 seconds, and after that, no real look to engage for the Tartarus Titans.
Haddix staring down all 5 of the Tartarus Titans. Root does hit. So Haddix will back away. Freeze catches Aurora. The stun right after Aurora. Does get the ultimate just in time for some CC immunity. And will make it out until Panatom goes to the backline. finds the first pick of the team fight and maybe more. Cyclone Spin with beads, cannot escape Haddix, who will dive into the back. Zapman finds layers alongside him. And Haddix and Panatom charging forward. Not much place for Paul to go. Will get the dash, but it doesn't go far enough. Panatom finds 2 in the fight, 4 down on the Titans, and the Leviathans will now grab the fire for themselves.
All starting off a beautiful freeze from Wrong You there, catching Aurora in the middle of the escape. And once Aurora gets caught, I mean, the rest of the team just has to go down. SOT did go to the back line as best as he could and try and disrupt some of the DPS there from the Titans, but it's not going to work. Now SOT is trying to wrap around and go for a red buff, but the rest of the Leviathans, they're at Phoenix now. They don't care about that buff.
They could just go for the end. It's only SOT and Aurora to defend on the Titan. Triple Mez gets a couple sets of beats. SOT has some damage, but there are 5 Leviathans there, all with Fire Giant, and there's only 1 Titan standing, and he's not even anymore. Sleepy time for Aurora and sleepy time for the Titans as the Leviathans take game number 1.
Wow. I mean, first of all, good call. Aurora and the Titan both taking a nap, but a great fight there. And again, I gotta give credit to Wrong You. You highlighted that last tower fight. The stopping of that first Fire Giant from the Titans, good walls by Wrong You, but the freeze after the fact to catch Aurora was just enough to start that fight. Haddix and Pantom go to the back line, and at that point, you're just not coming back. The Leviathans, I mean, there's been a running gag about them not being on point at these 11 a.m. games. They're looking pretty clean today.
They started off really strong, then had a little bit of a fumble around the Gold Fury.
Hiccup, if you will.
And it kind of got everybody a little bit more interested. Like, hey, man, now the Titans are kind of fighting back. The game is even. They got a Fire Giant. And the Leviathan said, all right, we guys kept you interested long enough. Let's go ahead and close this one out a little bit cleanly. The Leviathans do just that. 1 team fight win around the right side tier 2. 1 fight around the Fire Giant. And just march up the mid, able to take game number 1. Clean play by the Leviathans to close that one out.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the Nox ADC was my favorite pick. I'm not going to blame it entirely on that, but it just didn't seem like the Nox was doing too much. Sending the ult out every once in a while. You know, the combos weren't doing that much damage. It was all about the CC. It just wasn't hitting for me.
Yeah, so far, 3 mage ADCs between at least these 2 teams, but unfortunately all 3 of those have lost. It is game number 1 going to Leviathans. Can they keep it up and take game number 2? We'll find out right after this break.
Water. Earth. Fire. Momo?
Awake on the floor. Yeah. Oh, my vibe on your mind. Oh, my throat on your mind. Him no make you happy. No. Him no make you feel like I do. They both turning my way. Yeah. I can feel you warming up to me.
Welcome back, everyone, to set number 1 of the day. Leviathans stand up 1-0, although not without some trials throughout that game. Of course, if you've seen them and the Titans all looking fresh in their jerseys, well, you have Skulls to think out for that. Skulls Gear, to be specific. They are our merch sponsor for Season 9 here and have made some fantastic looking jerseys for them. You can go to shop.smiteproleague.com and get those, or you can go to that website right there, shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SBL, and go there. And I was actually just looking at the website, and it's really weird because I was like, where am I impressed with this? Not just the jerseys, which I think the quality of this year just looked phenomenal, but on top of that, the website's really nice. It's really weird to think, and maybe that doesn't come from everybody, but I really enjoyed scrolling through it. And so if you want to go get some jerseys or merch for your favorite teams, make sure that you go and get there now. And thanks to Skulls Gear for being our merch partner this year. And of course, thanks again to Mifflin for joining me back on the desk. Thanks to the Leviathans and the Titans for putting on a hell of a show in game number 1. Mifflin, this is one that Leviathans start off pretty good, right? Maybe don't get the way things want early on, but they get a nice fight within the first 10 minutes. Then things get a little shakier. Pyromancer fights are in the conversation. They lose a Fury to a Steel, and then they right the ship after losing a Fire Giant. It really feels like they stumbled a little bit in the middle, but got to where they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Atlantis Leviathans had a much more standard composition. They were able to utilize that throughout the early game to play standard Smite through and through, leverage a whole lot of pressure against some of these more unorthodox selections from the Tartarus Titans. And from there, we're in very good positions throughout the entirety of the game, because there are not many games where a team will lose Gold Fury, 3 lives, and the Fire Giant, and then just win immediately afterward regardless. I think that's probably a byproduct of the Tartarus Titans going for another strange composition. One of the main primary failings of this draft, I think, from the Titans is that they really struggled to find consistent damage. If Cyclone Spin's combo wasn't landing, that's the team fight loss for the Titans. If Paul got picked early, they had no way to deal with objectives, no way to deal with these structures, and it was very difficult to position around that. Having your primary magical damage source be a Nox has been something that we've seen attempted in the past, generally through mid.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked out there. Doesn't exactly work in the dual lane either. We've been having this major topic of conversation being, where is pressure originated now in the current phase? And it just seems like dual lane pressure is all important. There's so much neutral farm on that side of the map. The obelisk is so important for that macro play. Getting the scepter can really help out your support. How are you going to do all those things when your pressure originator isn't a behind Nox? It just doesn't necessarily line up.
And you can see there, 8,000 damage, just barely able to eke out even a roar in that case. You know, slightly behind where Layers was. Both of them almost half. I mean, Layers in this case is half of what their opponent was able to put up. So a lot more clean damage, consistent damage coming out from the Leviathans there. Also has to be mentioned, Shinto 5-0-4. One of the few times now, and probably this is actually going to end up being, I anticipate regular this season. I traded Hindu, my mid laner, in fantasy because I thought it was funny for him to just have all the Leviathans, and then a game like that happens and it makes me regret my decisions.
Who did you get?
I got Dardes though, so like, I think they're on the up and up.
Bad trade.
But it's really funny. It's just
trade.
really funny to me because Hindu rides or dies based on the Leviathans and all of it. Either way, we could just move into picks and bans for game number 2. Of course, if you want any information on that stuff, you should watch Waiting Room. We talk about fantasy, at least for the initial portion most of the weeks. Unless something juicy happens, like we come back after 6 weeks and don't have, and actually the opposite, have so much that we need to cover, we can maybe shuffle around there. Titans are going to take first pick here in game number 2. Daji immediately off the board, along with a Ymir. Their last ban, be coming in just a second. The Leviathans ban out the Morrigan and Khepri for their top 2, so keeping a little bit of consistency. Terra was on that list for them in game number 1. Maybe waiting to see if they can potentially get that one for themselves. The Titans had banned out the Guan Yu, the Kabrakan, and the Yemoja. All of those, well, until now, available. The Guan Yu taken away, Yemoja taken away. So how highly do they value that Kabrakan, or was that something specifically for the Leviathans? Mifflin, Kabrakan right now, is he
Mother
really
Earth
that
is
hot?
here for you.
I mean, I think Kabrakan's phenomenal. Anyone who's able to consistently spawn up a mana core spike is probably pretty good,
Yeah, good
in
point.
current meta. It just boosts your DPS so much. If you want to have him be a dedicated tank, you can still do that while simultaneously dealing your damage. It's very similar to when we see these full tank gods kind of just throw a Bumba's Hammer in at the end of their build. Now they can get that bonus Bumba's Hammer-esque damage a lot earlier on. Instead, though, Terra locked in first overall pick that we've seen a whole lot recently. Tons of healing, really utilizes Fade Blessed incredibly well, has phenomenal counter engage, decent matchup into the Kabrakan. Every time you proc that Earthen Fury, you should get the burst heal for your team so long as Tremors is getting channeled. I like that from the Titans first overall, and it doesn't force you into an eclectic composition. So the Titans, if they choose, could go pretty standard. I'm thinking they're not choosing that, though. I reckon that set is likely just slated for mid.
It's really interesting that when set gets locked in, immediately it's like, okay, yeah, no, that's all out of the window.
Glory.
They do go
To
for something maybe a
victory.
little more standard, though, because while set could be slated for mid, honestly could, because of this team, go to Cyclone Spin, or could go into the jungle. Technically could have gone solo, but now with a King Arthur on the board alongside that Terra, it feels like the front line here is Aurora on the Terra, Sot on the King Arthur. Definitely a lot easier to manage, I think, with a standard front line, whatever the Leviathans throw their way. Kabrakan on the
Smart
other
pick.
side, now an Ardio on the other side. And it was one of the few ways to deal with a King Arthur.
Yeah, I love this Ardio pick immediately. You've got phenomenal matchup into the Terra. She's so telegraphed anytime she wants to line up those combos. Throw out the Monolith, throw out the clap walls, if you would. You're probably going to dash next, right? Good luck if Ardio's standing anywhere between you and that. Same with Set. He's pretty telegraphed in that he has to throw out the clone before he's allowed to use that leap. You're not catching anybody unaware with that. So Ardio's cripple field very strong there. And as you said, a strong matchup into King Arthur as well. Should be able to get you a good amount of team healing. So your Fade Blessed has an avenue now on the side of the Leviathans. That HP shield, very valuable in these late game team fights. But the concern is that the Titans composition is very good dive. This is W key, pick your target. You're going to be able to run them down pretty consistently so long as Ardio isn't just being a PO monster. Vulcan, more slippery than he once was. Still wouldn't call him slippery.
No, he backfire moves you how many units? Like, it feels like maybe 20. Like, it's not a lot compared to where most dashes or someone like Heimdall is going to be able to traverse. So still susceptible. With the Heimdall locked in, though,
That's a safe pick.
I was going to say, not only is it a safe pick, it feels very Zapman. I mean, for a long time, there was just a long bout where Zap was finding success on that pick. And it feels like, essentially, my question was going to be if we thought this Vulcan was going over into the dual lane, if Zap was willing to try it again. This feels very standard for the Leviathans, right? Kabrakan, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a Panatom pick because they highly prioritized him earlier. They're still waiting, potentially, on getting something for let's say, Wrong Yu, although that's definitely still flexible. But the Vulcan, the Ardio, the Heimdall keeps things more, I want to say just grounded in reality. I also want to throw out that I'm really excited. We're only in the first week. It's not even completely finished yet. And yet the bans this week are eclectic enough across the entire league because everyone has their own identity where it's like, okay, well, you got to ban like the Ratatosker against the King sometimes. You got to make sure that you don't have to deal with, X, Y, and Z when it comes down to like Naja, although admittedly maybe more meta, banned against some of these squads. Not even looked at in this set so far. But then you get Freya and Thor banned against the Titans. People have definitely found their identity for this phase and this meta like incredibly fast.
Yeah, Look, we have emergent meta at the beginning of every single phase. Every time there's significant patches, all these teams seem to have agreements here and there or disagreements on how the patch should be played. Generally, it's week 3, week 4 where you start to see the league homogenize a bit more. So I think for the most part, we're going to see a lot of dedicated just target bans for the next couple of sets, or at least the next couple of days. I am so curious about this Titans lock-in. That Opwash, if it is Opwash, likely slated for the long lane, has decent matchup in the late-game team fight, and this is something you're going to hear me talk about a lot.
It is not wise to put
no
a
matter
basket
what
on
they
your
draft
head,
in individual
as you
roles,
will
for the most part, their
let the
compositions
light
do
be the
generally
judge.
start to tie in into a more standard way. So had it been Opwash, I'd have talked about how that's got a decent matchup in RDO, the healing. It would be very easy to line up some of those stuns. Instead, it's the Oleron locked in. I like this pick. You've got telegraphed engage from the Leviathans. Cabrakan runs it down. Artio runs it down. The best case they can do to kind of catch you off guard is a blink stun or something along those lines. Blink in, Sanctified Fields. Probably going to find some value. Good combo potential with the Hun bots. Fear No Evil into time dilation. Very, very powerful as a tool. And that time dilation is such a unique mechanic in Smite that it even does affect some of these safest picks in the game, like Heimdall. Takes a little bit longer to ride that Bifrost if you've been slowed down, so Oleron has some potential there as well. But the concern now for the Titans composition is how are you consistently starting these fights? If Hunbots has to do it every single time with Fear No Evil, who's burning the beads? Tara's got great CC. Wouldn't exactly call her a phenomenal beads burner, though. It's not often that root is so threatening that you want to utilize that relic. You're not finding the multi-man stuns too consistently either. So that is the primary concern for the Titans. Generally, that concern can be alleviated by this double assassin composition. If they're capable of establishing a lead, your initiation is just going to be damaged. So I think the Titans have got that avenue going forward. But the Leviathans are a team that do not often slip up in the early game so significantly that you're able to, deal with some of the weaknesses of your composition in that way. And then when you look at the Leviathans draft, I have zero concerns for how they start a fight. Cabrakan stun, Artio root from a range into a stun, Erlong Shen max range pin, or a blink 9 turns blessing. There are a multitude of ways for the Leviathans to start the fight, and follow-up is not a concern when Earthshaker's on the map.
Yeah, you definitely have the burst available for you. I do want to ask you one thing, and this has just come up a couple of times with some of the Titans drafts, and I think the last game honestly matches that. If anything, at least they had the Chiron there, but like tower sieges, right? Like playing the map itself, right? Team fights, you had highlighted a ton of great things they have going for them, but if Set and Hunbats aren't able to get in there, it feels like, is Oleron enough to kind of push down towers, or do they really have to win these fights in order to get some of those favorable states?
Of the magical hunters in the game, Oleron does not have the worst tower siege. Actually has some of the best objective siege, just by nature of having crits on his auto attacks, but he's not a hunter. He's not quite at just standard hunter tier. He's not the Chronoses or the Souls of the magical hunter tabs. So I think it's more so, can we win the fight? Then can we push? Absolutely, if Oleron survives. Keeping your Oleron alive throughout an entire engagement, not exactly the easiest thing. I dropped Sanctified Field. I did as much DPS as I can. They jumped on me the second my time dilation went away. I probably fell down. It's about how much value can you get before that happens. I like to equate his playstyle very much so to like the one-for-one traders in Smite, like things like the Erlong Shen, things like the Daji, things like the Pele, where it's, hey, I found my one, probably just going to fall down.
I'm excited to watch what this draft is going to be able to do, though. It's always interesting, though, because like there's so much to say, I think, about the Leviathans and how we're going to watch the Leviathans draft unfold, because it's just standard, right? They've got a lot of really good engage. Same thing could be said for the Titans, though. I'm excited to watch this one. Will the Leviathans take this 2-0? Will the Titans bounce back? Let's find out with J-Mac and Trelly.
Yeah, so far this weekend, it's been nothing but 2-0s. Maybe we can have our first opportunity at a 2-1 set, go all the distance, but the Tartarus Titans have got to find the team fights in order to do so. They've got to be able to find that win here before we can get our way over into game number 3. With how good the Leviathans looked in game number 1, it's going to be a tall task for the Tartarus Titans. We jump in. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug back one more time as we join in towards game number 2. And a little bit more traditional, I guess we can say, for the Tartarus Titans. Paul on set. We've seen this multiple times. Cyclone Spin on a magical god, but at least this time, Trelly, a magical hunter, more to say the least.
Yeah, I think the dual lane for the Tartarus Titans definitely looking a lot more normal, I guess would be the word to describe, but also I think Cyclone Spin should be able to influence the map a ton more on this Oleron rather than, again, the Nox can work, but I just think last game really wasn't hidden. At the end of the game, like 8k total damage, not going to be exactly what you want from your ADC in a game that goes that late. So now we get to see a little bit better of a team fight presence from this Oleron. You know, Sanctified Field's one of, if not the best ultimate in the game for team fight specifics, as long as you're able to burn those beads. And it does seem like could be something that the Tartarus Titans want to look to do anyways on this Hunbats. You got Fear No Evil. You're going to be getting beads down. Save the beads for the ult, or vice versa. Someone is going to be getting value when those relics go down, and I think that seems to be the plan here for the Titans.
Not a lot of range in the mid lane, at least to say the very least. Paul does have Skewer. Maybe you can get a Sacred Monkey Toss out of Layers, but the double assassin mid versus the Erlong Vulcan. And right now it's going over to that Erlong Vulcan. Layers chipped down to about 50 HP by Shinto and Panatom. Leviathan starting off strong in the mid. Paul leading a backfire will put him down to about 100 himself.
Yeah, Panatom has the Mannequin Scepter, so no worries.
Oh,
Is
no,
invading,
no!
But not even enough. The auto is not close. Paul got the Aegis, and that was enough to live through it. Shinto, though, is deadly on this Vulcan, doing so much damage. And that's a Sands of Time start. I was expecting the Conduit Gem because of how much burst Shinto's been able to put out so far, but that's just some good pressure. The double assassin, as you said, doesn't quite have that range. You got to get real close to the wave to clear it, and that's in favor of the Leviathans.
Cyclone and Aurora will at least get some pressure in duo lane. A Mannequin Scepter start for him. SOT also far low in the solo lane, so fighting across the board in all fronts, to say the least, and maybe some fighting again in the jungle. Root good. Panatom, or I should say, Layers has the leap in order to get away this time around. So the two assassins not having the most fun up against the Warrior Mage combo from the Leviathans. Panatom and Shinto starting off very strong in this early game.
Notable, the Hunbat's buff may come into play a few times here. It's not that recent, but the knock-up immunity during the second ability could be pretty clutch when trying to dive Shinto and trying to dive Zapman. Just something to keep in mind when these plays are coming through. But SOT's blue buff is getting looked at, but maybe not too concerned about the blue buff. The beads gets used, and now SOT is going to have to give that one up unless a clutch steal here from Layers would be able to confirm it, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So easy invade and the beads down. I don't imagine that it's going to be too much because SOT should be able to just sit back underneath this tower. It's not like Panatom's going to have 9 turns blessing for quite some time and able to use that beats down effectively, but at least we know now that SOT is going to be set onto that lane and doesn't have any MP5 to his name.
We have seen that Panatom has sacrificed a decent bit of farm over towards Shinto, and even just for Layers being able to pick us in that, despite nearly dying in the mid lane. After all that pressure was put in the tower, Panatom just now ticks over to level 3. Layers should be pretty close to hitting level 4 at this point. So some of that pressure that they got in the mid at least benefited for Shinto. He ticks over to level 5 himself, but as mentioned, it does end up costing Panatom, who is a full level down to Layers right now.
Yeah, I don't envy the situation that Paul's in, trying to dive this level 5 Vulcan if it ever is going to be the situation, because Kingslayer, usually you sit there, you wait for backfire, and then you're like, okay, I can go in. I have so much damage, I have so much healing, all that. But there's going to be a ton of burst here. It's going to be hard to get out of Earthshaker once it gets dropped when you're this far behind. I think that is the reason that Paul grabbed the Aegis, recognized how much burst damage was coming from the opposition. Yeah, there's a ton of things you'd want to beads, the 9 turns blessing, all of Haddix's CC, all of Rongyu's CC, but when you're sitting there in lane and you have to clear waves up against Shinto, Aegis is going to be clutch for moments like that. Maybe if Paul was sleeping a little bit and wasn't aware that ult was coming, that's the situation what you might want to go for. Panatom, though, is coming over it, looking immediately on the Cyclone.
Beads are available for Cyclone, but he doesn't need it until the pin does connect. Aurora finds a triple root in the backline. Layers on the way. Not level 5 on the Hunbats just yet. So no Fear No Evil available to the jungler of the Tartarus Titans. Instead, it'll be a disengage from the Leviathans, a disengage from the Titans, and instead some pressure put over towards the Interceptor. That one will actually go around the waist of Layers, who will take that into the jungle.
I know that we talk about this every single game, but Shinto really is just a farm menace, man. Level 6 already on the Vulcan. Panatom sitting at level 4. If 9 turns blessing could have came through, maybe some aggression happens at that point, but that's just not the way that the Leviathans like to play the map. They like to play through Vulcan. Well, in this case, Shinto, but they like to play through whatever Shinto's ahead on, right? You get this man ahead on whatever character it is, and then play through that pressure. At the moment, a full Warlock Sash starting to get stacked up. Paul does not have that Transcendence, and it's probably going to be a bit before that item is able to be finished. So power spike-wise, your mid lane is looking pretty solid. It really just depends on when Shinto is going to decide to rotate and make that lead known. You know, maybe walk over to duo lane, send an ult out with some setup. Obviously, it looks like SOT is going to have to go magical damage because he's up against Ardia, so Shinto not really wanting to look for a gank over on that side of the map. You're not going to get too much value because of how much protections that this King Arthur is going to have. But level 7 already, that's going to be pretty solid.
I mean, this is why Shinto is getting so much farm to himself. Soloed a green buff a moment ago, now soloing his own red buff. Panatom not going to get a scrap of that farm. That's why you're seeing him a little bit further behind layers comparatively. Level 5 and level 6. It's just been the name of the game for Shinto. If there is a camp up on the map, especially a camp on his side of the map up and available, and his teammates not already at it, you can expect him to be there trying to grab that one for himself. Now level 8 on the Vulcan, snacking up the Warlock Staff. And the Tartarus Titans will go ahead and grab their Greater Scorpion now for themselves. That'll enhance up their buffs and make things a little bit more enticing for their team. But the beads are now back up for SOT. Beads still down for about 45 seconds on Cyclone Spin. Gotta imagine, Charlie, this is a perfect opportunity for Panatom to maybe try and make another rotation towards duo.
Yeah, it could be, but I think you waste so much time heading over to duo lane to just get the beads down once. It would be worthwhile for your team, but again, there's so much farm on the right side of the map. Panatom did just grab it, so there is a bit. 26 seconds for Panatom to rotate over that left side of the map if possible, but only sitting at level 6, has the Crusher available. It seems like the call is to just grab as much farm as possible and then back it up. Blue buffs are going to be spawning in here shortly, and if Layers was on that right side of the map, maybe some aggression over on that map, but doesn't seem to be the call. Panatom, though, is wrapping around, and SOT's big ultimate is down. Beats came up, but actually uses them a little early.
Does get away from one, but the stun catches out. 9 turns busting, pulls him, but a double stun by SOT. Not quite enough to turn the fight around. First blood goes over to Panatom, but now Paul has rotated in. Haddix does have the dash to get away, and Paul does not have the gap closed to find the kill on the solo laner. Tartarus Titans fall for first blood, but now with Layers and Aurora here, maybe a chance on Panatom, but a bad bounce from the Sacred Monkey Toss does not go fruitful for Layers. It'll just be the one pick for the Levi's.
Yeah, but Hax has come all the way back, and Shinto is here as well. Doesn't have too much mana to try and fight this, but maybe Aurora would have been the target. Just not enough. You don't have too much abilities to try and cycle there to try and kill a very tanky Terra with Manticore spikes this early on. I am really surprised that SOT beats just Haddix's abilities. I think the call was, hey, you're getting really aggressive. I'm assuming that Panatom's on the way. I'm just going to bees and get out of trouble before he shows up, but Panatom was already there around the corner. Once those bees go down, that's going to be a pretty easy gank opportunity. So it wasn't the kill over on the duo lane. You know, Cyclone bees were down for a bit. It was that kill over on the solo, but that's still going to be first blood over to the Leviathans. And now, still, every time I look at Shinto's level, he's level 10 at 8 minutes. Keep up that level. Maybe level 20, about 18. That's insane farming, and the pressure has been absurd from the Leviathans this early on.
Roar. Cyclone caught out by Wrong Yu. With Sanctified Field available for Cyclone. Maybe a turn back towards Wrong Yu, and Panatom is going to be good. All on the way over. Through the realms goes one, but with Paul stepping in now, a back away from the Leviathans, not wanting to play any further up than they'd already gone. So a few ultimates used by the Leviathans, but they get a few in return by the Titans, and maybe most importantly, Cyclone's beats.
And now there could be another regank opportunity. I think with the amount of DPS that the Leviathans have at the moment, with an auto attack style jungler in the Erlong Chen, as well as the turret and the burst from Earthshaker, it's not crazy to think that a Gold Fury pull could be on the mind of the Leviathans after another pick. So I would like to see Panatom get a little aggressive on this left side of the map, which it seems like he's trying to do at the moment. Wait for Cyclone to step up with that Sanctified Fields down, look for a pick, and then immediately into a Gold Fury pull. That's got to be on the mind of the Tartarus Titans, so wards should be the name of the game. Layers knows, though, that Panatom's on that left side of the map, so a bit of the jungle is being invaded. I guess that's more so Shinto's jungle, actually, because went for the back camps himself. Doesn't even care about Panatom going over there. But the Greater Scorpion is up, so that could be something the Leviathans are looking to grab in place of the farm that Layers just stole.
Yeah, Layers able to grab at least a little bit. For Leviathans, pressure the name of the game for them. About 1,000 gold up so far in this early game with just the one kill to their name. Same regards in XP, sitting both about even 1,300, 1,500 around that range back and forth. Wrong tries to steal away the Harpy camp, but unsuccessful in doing so. So Leviathans have found their pressure pick. They found their one kill they need over in the solo lane. But it hasn't really transitioned much across the map just yet. Really, it's only in that mid where we're seeing any kind of real lead develop, Trelly.
Yeah, I do think that SOT is a little bit behind as well just because of the early gank, but it's not going to be the biggest deal. I think King Arthur still should be able to get online just fine as long as more objectives aren't being looked at. Wrong you, though, may look to pull this Pyromancer, and that actually is the call. Immediately drops the turret in solid burst with Haddix going over to zone. I don't think anyone is going to be stepping up to this Pyromancer from the Titans. Looks like a first easy objective on the board for the Levi's. Some presence showed on the left side of the map, but there's just no way that the Titans could look to pull Gold Fury at this moment. They've got the vision, but the burst, I think, is what they're missing out on. Shinto held on to the ultimate there. Could be walking into a setup here from Wrong Yu, and with the slow, this could be a kill.
Fear no evil good. Earthshaker does clip a couple, though. And Layer's in danger. Wrong Yu should go down here for a kill, and he will do so. Panatom finds the return fire, and the skewers from Paul dealing some good damage for now. But the meatball from Shinto from over the top will find the pick on Aurora. And it's a 2-for-1 trade for the Atlantis Leviathans, maybe more if they can catch out SOT. Shinto's got some decent damage, but maybe not quite enough to kill him under the tower. Instead, it's Cyclone under fire. Sanctified Field will slow down Panatom. Cyclone, though, eats the ultimate, loses the beads and the ult. A turtle in for Panatom. And perfect plays by the Levi's on the left side, make it a 3-for-1 at the end.
And now that's going to be the call to go for this Gold Fury pull. Shinto eats the full damage of that ultimate, doesn't even care about using the beads, and that is going to be a free Gold Fury as well. I don't blame Cyclone for that one. The second I saw Sanctified Field gets dropped, the second I saw that Panatom was taking a little bit extra damage, I was like, wait, maybe you can fight this? And then immediately, Zap connects with that ultimate, and the damage, even in the slow motion, really started to add up there. Unfortunate for Cyclone. Falls down, uses the ult, uses the beads, and because of that pick alone, that's enough to make sure that the Leviathans are able to grab not only that first Pyromancer at 10 minutes, but also the Gold Fury there at 12. The gold lead certainly in their favor now, sitting at about 4K. They are definitely in the commanding position here, and they're not going to stop. Level 14 for Shinto. Panatom 3-0 to his name and starting to get some more itemization online. This team fight is looking real solid here for the Levi's.
I mean, just a moment ago, we were sitting at, what was it, 1,300 gold that the Leviathans had up, but this 3-for-1 trade, Gold Fury and Pyromancer all stacking up, have now netted 4K gold in XP.
Look at that XP per minute. That is 730 XP per minute.
130 over the next highest farm, and that's the mid laner. SOT just wants farm, but instead he's forced into a fight. A taunt back by Panatom, but with layers here, shouldn't be any further fighting from the Leviathans, at least this deep into enemy territory, but they do force SOT back and get the beads from the King Arthur once again, and that's been the name of the game for Panatom and Haddix this game. It's just been pull the beads from the King Arthur, take away that safety that SOT has.
Yeah, it really seems like trying to get Haddix ahead, trying to get pressure on the right side of the map is the name of the game for the Leviathans because, you know, Cyclone didn't have ult, didn't have beads, but if you look, Cyclone was sitting between towers at the time, not really showing up any sort of process, and Panatom doesn't want to waste his time going all the way over that side of the map just to realize that Cyclone's not stepping out of that tower line to alleviate a gank. Whereas SOT, not doing too much damage with the level 11 King Arthur, did seem pretty easy to try and kill, and diving that tower. I mean, Haddix can tank that up for days with this build, Breastplate and Manticore Spike, so smart call, get the beads down. Not going to bring a kill just yet, but you're setting up for the pressure. You're setting up for the possible pull of a Pyromancer the second it spawns back in. You have that timer. You're able to pull it right away. And just trying to get small wins and push that gold lead ever in your favor. Seems to be the call here. And since there's no more fighting, Aurora is going to come over to the left side of the map and help out Cyclone Spin until a second relic can get purchased. Still 5 seconds on the beads. Might need a little help trying to step up to that wave.
And it's going to be 80 seconds till SMT's beads are back up. Paul's got the teleport out, so he'll be fine up against 3 Leviathans. Able to go quite a distance with that Sandstorm clone teleport. Last Leviathans, they found their pressure just about everywhere now. Able to find a pick on everybody except for Paul. Paul has been able to play fairly safe on this set, despite almost dying for first blood earlier on in the game at that 1-2 minute mark to start things out. Pyromancer should be up in about 30 or so seconds, so the Leviathans could easily mount that pressure up. So if you're the Tartarus Titans at this point, Charlie, I mean, you're down 4,000, 5,000 gold nearly at this point. You haven't been able to really win out on the team fights. Where do you draw the line in the sand to try and make a comeback against the Leviathans?
I mean, at this point, it's not looking too good unless you find an overwhelming fight in your favor in the sense of, hey, we've got like 4 people here and there's only like 2 Leviathans. I imagine you're just sitting back on your tower, getting your neutral farm that is yours and yours alone, and hopefully Zapman rotates out. Because if Zapman rotates out for this Pyromancer, Cyclone Spin can just slam some waves for a bit, like 2 or 3 free waves on the left side of the map, possibly a tier 1 tower. Could certainly go a long way. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the opportunity because Aurora does have to dash out. Didn't get the second charge of the dash and could be falling here low.
SOT comes as backup. Finds the ult on the Panatom, will slam him down into essentially nothing, but saving the life of his support. Now with Haddix rotating over, the push onto the tier 1 tower in mid is inevitable for the Leviathans, especially with Zapman making his rotation from the dual lane as well. That one crumbles. Some extra gold for the Leviathans in pocket, and just in time for the newly respawned Pyromancer. Leviathans, objective mind in this game. Grab not even an actual pick, just a TKO. They grab a tower and a pyro with it.
This is exactly what I wanted to see, just to give the Tartarus Titans a little bit of extra farm. Cyclone Spin is trying to push that tower, but look, Panatom, it did not go to the Pyromancer. Got the purple buff confirmed for the ADC. Actually does, unfortunately, have to let this tower go down. I guess fortunately for the Tartarus Titans, though, Layers was going to stick around just in case, trying to find some extra farm as well. But Zapman was able to head over just to get a little bit aggressive and make sure the tier 2 tower does not get looked at. So Pyromancer goes down. Primal Fury should be spawning in here shortly, and that's probably when we're going to see the Leviathans get aggressive again. And for me, that's the line in the sand. You know, you're not giving up the second Gold Fury for absolute free. If the Tartarus Titans want to try and make a comeback in this game before FG, it's going to be at this Primal Fury for sure.
Game number 1, the turnaround for the Titans was around that Fury. They were able to win a fight, find a few picks, and get a Fire Giant. Then unfortunately for them, Leviathans, their turnaround to turn the game back over to their side was that tier 2 tower defense. So maybe for the Titans, could be their opportunity back in. But for now, neither team really looking towards this Gold Fury just yet. Wrong, you will spot out Roar. But the Titans have started the Fire Giant. Haddix knows that they're here. There are 4. Panatom is on the way. Stunned by Haddix, trying to bully out Cyclone, who drops the Sanctified Field. Fire Giant is going down. It should go over to the Titans, and it will do so. But Panatom has found 1 pick. Haddix is trying to close the gap on 3. And now with Shinto and Rongyu on the way, can the Leviathans find the distance they need to get out of this fight? It seems so. Paul will just be the sacrificial lamb for the Titans to get fire.
Wow, I mean, the Titans did make a good call here, but what are you going to lose in the process? The Leviathans are grouped as 4, going for this tier 2 tower. Layers already used the Fear No Evil. It's not going to be easy to keep this from going down, and it seems like the Leviathans are going to grab this tier 2 tower, then just go back for Primal Fury pretty freely. It's not going to net the Tartarus Titans just about anything, but what it will do is take the Fire Giant off the map for the Leviathans. They're able to grab that tier 2, they're able to grab this Primal Fury, but they can't use that Fire Giant buff to further their lead. They can't start pushing down these Phoenixes or the rest of the tier 2 towers for a little bit longer. But now it's possible that the Tartarus Titans want to try and get aggressive here. Unfortunately, the Levi's are smart and it's going to get the objective and get out, not stick around for too long, ever the veterans, and possibly grab this tier 1 tower in mid. Start climbing back some of that gold in their favor. A sneaky call, Paul dies, but it works out so far. Tartarus Titans
made sure to keep it on at least a couple of key members, one being Layers, who's been a big initiator for his team, and one for Cyclone, who's going to be one of the primary tower killers for his squad, being able to get some of that range damage out there. But so far with this Fire Giant only losing their 1, they've lost a Fury and a tier 2 tower of their own. So coming up net negative at the moment for the Tartarus Titans. So the question is, will they mount a fight somewhere? Will they try and push with this Fire Giant? We already saw they went for the tier 1 tower themselves to make sure to grab that. Charlie, if you are the Titans, do you try and force a fight around something? Do you maybe just look for some of these safer tier 1s, maybe a tier 2 tower to grab?
Yeah, at this point, I'm thinking if I'm the Titans, I'm placing wards, trying to figure out where the grouping is of the Levi's, which currently is at the back camps where Layers could be walking into a trap. That's the plan, right? Figure out where they are and get farm elsewhere. Paul said, oh, you see 3? Okay, I'm going to the left side of the map. I'm pushing this tier 2 tower. I'm trying to get some extra farm. We have taken the Fire Giant off the map. We know the Leviathans can't get too aggressive at the moment. So I'm going to get as much farm as possible, so as much itemization as possible until we actually are forced to fight. And I think that's exactly what the Tartarus Titans are doing here. Paul trying to push that tier 2 and left, got the call that, hey, there's a lot of Levi's on the right side of the map. And now the Leviathans, they have to back up here. They don't want too much free farm going down. And there's not much they can do at the moment without a Fire Giant buff.
We're going to grab tier 2. So that's some nice extra gold for the Titans to close up the gap that the Leviathans have been building up. Nearly 6,500 that was creeping up earlier on. The Titans have mitigated for at least the time being. So this Fire Giant buff, only 1 minute left. We're grabbing a tier 1 and a tier 2 with it. At least slows things down. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, which was they took the Fire Giant off the map for the Leviathans. They didn't give the Leviathans the chance to grab that buff for themselves. And so the Tartarus Titans kind of stalling this game a little bit longer, waiting for that next respawn to come through. And I imagine at that point, Charlie, that might be where we see our next real big team fights when this fire is back up.
Yeah, and there was some power spikes hit by the Titans in the meantime. Layers was able to finish a full Hydra's Lament. Paul was sitting on tier 1. Mason has a full Titan's Bane as well. So I think the stall Fire Giant play did exactly what it was supposed to do. Of course, you would have liked to get some of these tier 2s off the map, and they did get one. The Tartarus Titans were able to grab that left side tier 2. But besides that, it just stalled enough to get some power spikes online to where they feel a little bit more confident actually defending this objective. I've already spoken about the burst that the Leviathans have. So if they do get to the Fire Giant first, Earthshaker on top of the backfire meatball combo should be able to confirm that objective pretty freely unless Layers. It's a pretty clutch Fear No Evil. You know, Shinto's going to have the beads hotkeyed and ready to try and confirm that objective if it is the play. But actually, Cyclone and Paul are running it down the left side of the map, trying to grab maybe just a little bit of extra farm. I was going to say, if no one backs, sure, they could look towards that Phoenix. But I'm guessing the Fire Giant timer's in their head. Losing a member here would be disastrous. You want to make sure you're ready 5v5 at this objective when the FG touches down. And they could be setting up a little bit of a gank here. I don't imagine anyone from the Levi's is going to walk up, though. Shinto could be going in through the door. A little too late, though. Seems to be onto this and not going to give them the free pick before the FG spawns in.
Yeah, did see that Paul and Cyclone were on the map earlier on. Saw that at least one of them popped on the map again on that left side. So just opened up the door just to take a little peek. Saw that nobody was in there and probably got a little spooked because of it. So not going to push in. Plus his red buff was down, the green buff was down. Really no reason for Shinto to actually need to walk through the door at that point. I think the Titans may have realized that as well. They backed away.
Zap
3 pushing the left Phoenix. Zapman going to be the only one who goes back to try and defend against this. He'll spot out that at least Cyclone and Paul are here. Not sure if he spotted Layers throughout all of that as well.
Okay, I like that.
But the Leviathans can now make their group up towards the right side. It's only the frontliners of the Titans to try and take this Fire Giant away. Meanwhile, Panatom and Shinto, the main DPS, deal with the fire. Not going as fast as they would like it to. They're lacking some of that Hunter damage from Zapman, but still down. Half HP on the Fire Giant. SOT stunned away, and Cyclone will go ahead and say, all right, you guys can coin toss this Fire Giant. We're going to go ahead and go for the Phoenix ourselves. Fire over to the Leviathans, but left Phoenix over to the Titans.
Yeah, you know, at first I said I liked it, but now I don't like it so much. I thought Zap was going to sit there until Fire Giant went down to make sure that play didn't happen. The reason you don't send your tank bank at that point is because there's 3 DPS. It's going to be very difficult for Haddix to clear the wave and make sure that Phoenix doesn't go down. Zap has a ton of safety options and had both relics, so should be just fine defending that Phoenix. It's going to slow your defense on FG a little bit, but I mean your DPS on FG a little bit, but you know, you've got the zone and you should be just fine. But I guess the Leviathans are fine taking that either way, because now they just pushed up that left side. They're like, oh yeah, fire minions stink, but we're just going to push them out as we go for your Phoenix, as we kill these towers on the left side of the map. But once again, the Tartarus Titans are going to split up the farm. Send SOT on right, try and get some extra gold in pocket, try and knock down some of these tier 2 towers before the actual Phoenix Siege starts. And then we can do it 5v5. A Trebuchet also on the side of the Tartarus Titans to help out if this Phoenix starts to get looked at here.
Tier 2 will go down. There's 1 tower left standing for the Leviathans, but instead they'll start knocking on the door of the Phoenix. A little under 3 minutes on their Fire Giant power play, and all 5 are grouped up for a 5-man push on the left side Phoenix. Haddix gets stunned out by a roar. That's the stun now down for the tank. Drop the monolith to the back for some healing. Haddix gonna root out a couple before having to back away themselves. Fire Giant keeping the team sustained, so the Leviathans can slow play this until their next wave is here.
Cyclone actually got meatballed into the trip, you say, so it's sent out. Now it is going to help defend this a little bit longer, but it is getting absolutely melted by the carries of the Leviathans. Phoenix hasn't been touched too much, but Panatom is still sitting in mid, doing a bit of a chicken dance with layers, seeing who's going to go in first. But remember, these fire minions are starting to add up, and it looks like that is going to be the call for the Leviathans to back up, possibly pick up a Gold Fury, and then reset. Fire Giant buff runs out in a couple minutes. They do have some time to go back and get a little bit of extra farm before trying to break the base. Remember, Tier 2 tower still stands tall and right. That is some extra farm that the Leviathans could grab in the meantime. But because of that cheeky call, because of the left side Phoenix going down in favor of the Titans, the Leviathans do have to be careful about where they decide to put that pressure because fire minions are spilling in.
Fire minions are definitely a major threat. We've seen one too many games throughout the course of SMITE's history where minions have been able to end a game if you're not making sure to keep track on them and making sure to keep your balance with it as well.
Always gotta watch out for those Winions.
Gotta watch out for the Winions. Fire Winions are just a little too potent, especially if you manage to get a wave of Oni Fire minions.
Oni Fire Winions?
Oni Fire Winions. Those could probably kill a player, honestly, if they're not paying attention.
Okay.
They do a lot of damage.
Yeah, if you get like a Ganesh versus a wave of like Oni Fire Winions,
Ganesh is losing.
Yeah, you better have Dartmouth Pillars and full damage builder. You're not clearing that wave. It's always sad because usually whenever the fire minions are pouring in, you know, the tanks go back and they realize like we can't clear these. Like guys, I need help. I can auto attack these for half an hour. I'm not gonna clear this wave. I really need some DPS back here. Finally though, we get to see 30 seconds left on this Fire Giant buff, and SOT and Paul are just pushing it up the left side of the map. I mean, yeah, Pyromancer goes down, but that Phoenix is gonna spawn back in here shortly. And as long as Paul doesn't make his presence known, no one's going to know that he's on that side of the map. Haddox, however, is going to that left side of the map to try and defend, as the rest of the Leviathans are pushing down mid and right, possibly trying to grab this Tier 2 tower before the Fire Giant runs out in about 12 seconds.
So that's Haddox has some damage at least. He does have, you know, Gem of Fate. That'll help him out a little bit. Sorry, Gem of Focus. I keep wanting to say that one's Gem of Fate. It's not. Gem of Fate's Tier 1 of the Mirrodin. I keep getting those mixed up naming-wise.
That's that 10% CDR.
That's that real value, that 900 gold, 10% CDR item. Love that.
I do love that, but I also hate how expensive it is, you know?
So expensive.
I back with like 700 gold, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go buy Tier 1 of something, and then I'm like, how would Staff of Mirrodin? Oh, wait, I can't because I have to get 200 more gold.
Very expensive, and a couple more fire waves left, or maybe just one once Haddox clears that out. And then the left side Phoenix will be fine for the next fight up, so long as, you know, Paul or Cyclone doesn't stick around and push that wave in.
Oh, they will.
So the Leviathans can just set themselves back up for the Fire Giant that will respawn in just under 20 seconds by the time I finish this statement up.
You ready for the tech? All right.
I'm ready for the tech.
Zap puts his teleporter at fire and then stays here and defends until fire's at like 50%, then just zoop, goes all the way over and then does fire. But it looks like Paul, Cyclone, and SOT all here with Zap. He's going to have to Bifrost out. Nope. Too little, too late. Didn't click the shell key, and he's gone.
Yeah, he's dead. There's not much that Zapman can do when you're surrounded by three, and two of them are high damage dealers such as Set and Oleron this late in the game. Haddox, or I'm sorry, SOT was just there as the setup at that point. Got the beads away. So shell
Paul's
gone.
the set.
No, setup.
Oh.
Set up with a hyphen in between the two words.
Okay, that's on me then. I thought you said something different.
You are bringing this back again. I remember this from the last time that you were casting. You're not fooling me. The Tartarus Titans are trying to fool the Leviathans about this Fire Giant that started up, but the Leviathans have sniffed this one out. Meatball does get two sets of beads at the exact same time. Earthshaker from over the top will take Layer's health down to only a couple hundred left. Haddox to the back line, finds the stun, finds the swipe, and a Fear No Evil, not quite enough to slow him down. A good pre-beads by the RDO, but it's not enough to get out. Layers will be able to find the blink. Aurora gets caught in the middle of four, and Shinto makes him pay, but that's one down for the rest of the team to get fire.
This is the third Fire Giant of the game, the second that the Titans have, and they're still down 11,000 gold. The Leviathans, 4 strong, because Zapman is still running it up mid, are sieging the base. They are trying to grab this Phoenix. Not too many ultimates available, just SOT's little ultimate, and it looks like the Phoenix is going down extremely slow.
Shinto's is back up. We saw what it did to Layers last time at max range. We'll see what it can do to Cyclone and SOT. That's half health away from the King Arthur. That's all the health away from Cyclone Spin. Wrong you on his last legs, trying to crawl his way out of this fight. Haddix will find the dash shot. Layers versus Zapman. Zapman goes in. Overhead smash, good. One more auto. And the shell from Zap will keep him alive and find the pick on Layers.
Now only 3 left to defend, but the mid Phoenix did drop as a left side Trebuchet is also pushing, but the Leviathans, they don't have that Fire Giant regen. Their HP is not going to be going up too quickly here, as it looks like the right side Phoenix is trying to get sieged as well. Haddix, however, teleported back in full HP, and that's going to be a lot easier because Zapman also teleported back full HP.
Zapman's back. Wrong You and Panatom are low though, especially Wrong You. Panatom does manage to find the ult, so he'll get some health back, but the Phoenix will not. 2 of the 3 birds taken off of the map by the Leviathans. And remember, Trelly, not even 2 minutes ago, that was the Tartarus Titans who took the Fire Giant, and they're the ones losing the fights and losing their defenses.
I mean, the gold lead has been in the Leviathan's favor this whole time. I would say props to the Titans for just playing from behind so well. This is unfortunate, exactly how you need to play if you want to come back in a situation like this, because itemization-wise, you're just not there. There's upgraded relics for most members of the Leviathans, whereas Aurora has 4 items and 1 of them's a starter. Like, it's just team fight-wise, it's not there. So you have to split up the map. You have to look for these cheeky pushes onto Phoenix, try and force the Leviathans to fight you, not grouped up, look for a pick on the Zapman at purple buff. Those are the kind of plays that the Tartarus Titans had to make. The unfortunate truth is they were never able to climb that gold lead back. Sure, they got Fire Giant twice. Sure, they got a couple picks during the siege, but they were never able to get those big objectives that were going to help that gold gap close a little bit. Now it's time for the Leviathans to once again group up and push down the left side of the map. Notably, Paul and SOT still have fire for about a minute, so that's cool, I guess. 2 Phoenixes down, though. Not going to be easy to try and defend this one.
Leviathans pushing strong. 4 left, 1 mid. That'll be the Titans responding in kind. Cyclone Spin's got to deal with some fire minions from the right. Wrongu will tank up this Phoenix, which doesn't stand for much. Zapman full build on this Heimdall. Can easily chip it away at the HP bar of the bird. Root from Haddix to try and catch SOT and Aurora, finds the cripple, Layers goes through the back line with the Fear No Evil, and a Sanctified Field now will separate the fight. The slowest Earthshaker of your life doesn't find anything, but SOT caught out behind the wall. Still, everybody alive during the fight as Haddix zones out 3 by himself in the back line. Left side bird goes down. Root doesn't find a target. Paul low, Aurora low. Paul trying to find his way back. It's stunned out by Haddix. And the Atlantis Leviathans are pushing in towards the Titan, but Shinto is the one who's pushed back. SOT finds the double kill amongst it all and is able to at least keep his team alive, but all the damage coming back through. Panatom tries to find it, but it's a triple kill for SOT. A pick for Cyclone Spin, and only 1 left standing for the Leviathans. The Titans have pushed them back once more.
They can't keep getting away with these Titan defenses, man. The Tartarus Titans off the back of crazy DPS from Kingslayer. I mean, SOT gets credit for 3 of those kills, and Layers starts the fight with a massive Fear No Evil to get a bunch of relics down. Unfortunately for the Titans, though, you're in a situation where you have 3 Phoenixes down, even with a massive stop like that. You're not just running it down mid and ending. You're not just taking a Phoenix and killing the Titan. It's just not a position you're in. Your tanks cannot clear all of these waves at the same time, and your Titan's HP looking a little bit worse for wear. So what that did do was stall out a bit of that siege and give the Tartarus Titans a possible chance at setting up some position for EFG. Haddix is pretty much just going to set up camp here for a bit until the rest of his team's able to join him, and then try and stop the DPS on this Enhanced Fire Giant. Paul and Cyclone already here hitting on the Pyromancer. It's going to be a stall duty for a bit already. You can see Zap and Shinto on the way, but it's not going to be easy to stop this from going down.
Shots towards Haddix. The Enhanced Fire Giant has started up. And Cyclone and Paul putting out the majority of that damage.
Oh,
Fire Giant low, Shinto over the top. Will seal it with the Earthshaker, but SOT has found Shinto in the back line, and so has Layers. It's a pick for the Tartarus Titans to push this one back. And now it's Aurora who is low. Layers is gone. 1-for-1 trade. Make it 2 as Panatom has found a triple kill now. And the Leviathans can continue their fight back, but they have lost their 2 carries and may have lost some of their pushback unless
Haddox
Haddox
TP'd
is going
in.
to go for the end of the game, but a couple of members have made it back for the Titans. No end for the Leviathans just yet.
Smart call. Haddox decides to go for that mid Phoenix instead. Wrong you and Panatom are on the way, but fire minions are pouring into this base. Right side Phoenix weak, mid Phoenix going down, and that Titan's not looking too healthy.
Kingslayer's done it before, but Paul doesn't have the Kingslayer this time. A blink in, Titan at half. SOT pumping out as much damage as he can, but Paul doesn't have an Aegis any longer. Paul doesn't have a life, and SOT pinned out and slammed against the wall. The Atlantis Leviathans, they bring it back at the end. 35 in to take game number 2 and the set.
The Tartarus Titans. Titan lives no more. I mean, what a ridiculous defense. 2 sets in a row from the Titans, but the Leviathans, they said, you know what? You may have killed us, but we got 3 Phoenixes down. Fire Mains are doing too much damage. You can't burn this EFG before Shinto walks in with the Earthshaker to make sure to confirm that one. And Panatom was doing a ton of damage as well. I mean, props to Haddox for playing it as well as you can. You got to stall out that DPS, wait for your team. And then once he saw the team fight was won, he's like, I'm TPing in, man. I'm going for the end. I see how weak this Titan is. Paul doesn't have ultimate. There's no way you can stop us at this point.
It's just so good being back in these potential objective steal kinds of guys. You think back
Oh, yeah.
to the Raws, the Thoughts, and now with Vulcan being back in, no Fire Giant is safe with the amount of range he has. Shinto finds the steal at the end, the Leviathans find the fight, and the Leviathans find the win. That's it from us on the cast. We'll take it over to the desk to close out the set.
Yeah, some really iconic moments there, just at the end of the game. But really, trials and tribulations for both sides throughout all of that. The Titans, it gives me flashbacks, Mifflin, to what was happening against the Bolts as well, where a lot of this mid-game and early game maybe not going their way, but somehow, every single time, these guys are making a defense happen. And admittedly, on Friday, it felt one kind of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The second one felt a little more implausible. First set or first game this time around didn't happen for him. This time feels like, oh my god, how do you keep dragging it out? Like, you keep yourselves in this almost no-win scenario. And unfortunately for them, it stayed a no-win scenario.
It feels like the Tartarus Titans are incredibly reliant on their mechanical skill to carry them through these outlier situations. Hey, we're allowed to play our weird draft. We could take these strange picks in any individual lane because we're just that mechanically strong. But when you're playing against other top teams in the league, that's when the macro game comes into play. That's when the meta game starts to come into play. That's why we have picks that have risen above. And the Leviathans have always been a team that are going to play whatever they think is best at the time of. They don't care about personal identity. And for those of you that are like fighting game fans in the chat, there's this concept called player expression. The Leviathans don't care.
Nope.
We're not here to look cool. We're not here to try and make things look saucy. It's not here to excite you. We're here to win. They're the hitmen of the SMITE Pro League. And today, just professionalism and standard SMITE play won the day.
And professionalism, standard SMITE play. And I'm wondering if it was level heads, excitement, what exactly was going on in the booth. Well, good news is you don't have to hear it from here. We'll break more down a little bit after this. But first, an interview with the Leviathans.
What is going on? I am joined by the Atlantis Leviathans after that close but also dominant performance. More specifically, I got to ask Shinto a few questions because at one point in that game, I looked at the XP per minute and you were at like 720. The closest to you was Paul at like 600. How are you getting all this farm on the map?
Yeah, man, I'm not wrong. I'm just like hitting minions and hitting RPs, and that's pretty much my job in my team.
All right, so one more question here. At the end, you know, I don't know if you guys were getting flashbacks as to the Titans game yesterday where, you know, you go for the Titan Siege. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out. You got 3 Phoenixes down, and then you realize that it's like Haddox versus, what, 4 or 5 at the EFG. Were you guys ever worried, or you knew you had that steal in the fight after the fact?
Now we knew we just need to play calm and need to like wait and let's see what they're gonna do and pretty much, yeah, play calm and play well.
All right, well, calm, cool, and collected are the Leviathans as well as Shinto. We're going to throw it back to you guys on the desk. Well played, guys.
I think my favorite part of that, and I don't want to poke fun, but it was really interesting that it was, how do you get so much farm? And he's like, I don't know, man, I just farm. Like, he's just, and sometimes that's just what it is. The rest of the Leviathans somehow just funnel all of their gold in through Shinto, and almost always ends up working out. A really good Fire Giant steal there at the very end, Mifflin. They get the FG, they clean up the fight afterward. Still doesn't feel like it's an overwhelming victory for them, but then, you know, as the casters had said, and you had mentioned, your 3 Phoenixes down, there's fire minions working for you, Haddox teleports across the damn map. It made things a lot easier in that scenario. Even though they weren't in a crazy easy win, they were able to at least get aggressive.
And to speak to the question that Trelly asked of Shinto saying, hey, look, I got my farm because that's all I do is I farm. If you want to figure out where Shinto's getting your farm, don't ask Shinto, ask Panatom.
Yeah.
He's the one making the sacrifice.
While he's crying in the corner.
Yeah. Panatom respawning like, oh, my back camps are taken. Surely it was stolen by the enemies. Not the case. That was Shinto. He got those. He's super ahead, though.
And you know what? Sometimes it pays off. Look, he got a triple kill in game number 1. Looked really solid there. It is so easy, I think, to look at this team, look at where Panatom was able to accomplish, again, on this Erlong Shen. Something that it doesn't feel like it is as high priority as it was maybe earlier this year, definitely a lot last year, but still brings so much to the table. And you had highlighted this going into that game, but you've got the follow-up. I mean, Shinto, at any given time, if you can just lock someone down for him, was guaranteed going to do damage.
Yeah, just a very, very clear and concise gameplay plan from the Leviathans. They had multiple avenues to ensure that there was always follow-up on the multitude of initiation that they had with this draft. Be it a blink 9 turns blessing, a stun from Haddox, Wrong U locks him in with a wall. It was always followed up by some sort of long-range artillery damage, be it Zapman or Shinto. So when you have a strategy like that, although it is clear, it's hard to deal with. If you know a stun's coming and a giant nuclear Vulcan ultimate's following it up, there's only so much you could do even with the knowledge of it. Leviathans play very, very well around that. Clean, concise play is exactly what the Leviathans have been known for when they're at their peak form. Yep. We got a good look at it today.
And I think what we're slowly seeing, first off, 10-1 and 3, absolutely ridiculous game from Panatom when it comes down to kill count, but also just the idea, and it's been that conversation, the Leviathans don't need to be the greatest all year, have to ramp up at the time where it matters most. Zapman has quite literally been living that for 3 years in a row, where he will sit down in the 5th, 6th, 7th spot, and then suddenly have that burst of energy playing through the very end qualifiers. It is nice to see, though, like they mentioned it at one point, Shinto was up in the 700s. It is great to see here that Panatom was able to out-farm Shinto. Maybe a small win for Jungler's Myth, but a win
only
nonetheless.
Took 10 kills, only took 10 kills to out-farm Shinto, but, they got there eventually. A lot of mid laners on the side.
Yeah, there you go. And then, you know what? Shinto's been loving the farm either way. It's been looking good for him, like you said, when this team is firing on all cylinders, when they're at their peak, or maybe at this case approaching their peak because they don't want to hit it too soon. They want to make sure that stride is right around Worlds time. Everything really does seem to step up, and I'm excited to see what they have to offer. Also worth mentioning that Zapman has played, I think, all 3 of his championships so far through the lower half, right? He's never been that one of the teams that auto-qualifies to Worlds. And I wonder if that's going to play in his mind a little bit as they go forward. Maybe we'll see that through the rest of Phase 3. But for now, we still have to close out week number 1 and look at the 2 sets that still remain today. In just a few minutes, we're going to be kicking off the Bolts taking on the Scarabs. And then a little bit later today, the Dragons will take on the Kings. Both of these, I think, interesting for different reasons altogether. Baskin playing for the Bolts. Very interesting to see what they're going to do with the new solo laner. A whole lot of new for the Scarabs, just to see what they can do as a team right now, I think is what's got me excited. And then, of course, a rematch of the Summer Masters Finals, Dragons and Kings. Very, very fun sets to be seen. And a lot of questions, I think, that still need to be answered, Mifflin.
Yeah, primary question in my mind, have the Camelot Kings figured out and adapted to this just Jazzberry Jam style of the Jade Dragons? But maybe more important, this next set, I know that it's got lesser implications on the top of the league, but yeah, I really want to see what this Solar Scarabs roster is capable of. That's not to say that the Olympus Bolts aren't incredibly favored in this one. They are. They absolutely are. But I just feel like we didn't get an opportunity to see exactly what the Solar Scarabs are really going to do, because they were playing against the Jade Dragons, who just brought that early game aggression every single time. I want to see what these Scarabs can do with just a little bit of space on the map.
And definitely a couple of good peeks at them yesterday, in game number 2 specifically, but not enough that it was able to fully round out and kind of show us what we expect. But again, everything new, right? If you think about this roster, the only player that's there from the original inception is Boronic, right? Stewart replaced Zap. You've got now Yarkor replacing Inbound.
Scary with Sot.
Yeah, Scary with Sot, and
Yeah.
then Sam with what was Scream, and prior to that was Layers, I believe, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, a ton of changes for that squad. Excited to see what these changes will culminate into. Maybe week 1 is not going to be their week. Maybe it will be. We'll find out in the next set right after this.